Chapter 197. Returning to the capital a few seconds later, Jiang Yin helplessly looked at her brother and said, "What are you thinking? Do you think I want to have any relationship with King Cheng?" Seeing the confusion in Jiang Cheng's eyes, Jiang Yin whispered, "Just by seeing how King Cheng treats Miss Jiang of the Jiang family, one know that he has no interest in me." Thinking of Xiao Nanye's cold expression when he looked at her, a trace of disappointment appeared in Jiang Yan's eyes. Initially, when she came, she did harbor such thoughts, but upon seeing Xiao Nanye's care for Jiang Peihuan, she instantly let go of this idea. Upon hearing this, Jiang Cheng let out a sigh of relief. Looking at Jiang Yin, he lowered his voice and said, "Although I haven't had much contact with King Cheng, I can see that he is very attentive to Miss Jiang. That Miss Jiang is really fortunate," he added at this point. Envy filled Jiang Yan's eyes. While the Jiang siblings were discussing Jiang Peihuan, she also mentioned the two of them. Looking at the man beside her, Jiang Peihuan could not help but ask, "Jiang Cheng brought his sister to the capital this time. What do you think?" "He is just seeking a chance to survive," the man replied indifferently. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, the man spoke lightly. "That Miss Jiang Yin is indeed very beautiful. Perhaps things will take a turn. In terms of beauty, no one can compare to you in my eyes," the man said, unable to resist taking Jiang Peihuan's hand. Jiang Peihuan glared at him and tried to pull her hand back, but the man held on tightly. "Let go." Seeing that Jiang Peihuan was really getting angry, Xiaonani finally released her hand. Soon, news from Jiangzhou reached the capital. In the Prince Qing's mansion, Pei Wu rushed into Xiao Junhao's study anxiously. Hearing his words, Xiao Junhao's face turned grim. "You said Prince Cheng is fine?"
Yes.
"Ha!" Hearing Pei Wu's words, Xiao Junhao's eyes revealed a touch of mockery and complexity. "Your Highness, there's one more thing that you need to prepare early." "What else?" "Meng Yi has been found and is on his way back. If he is brought before the Emperor, it's uncertain whether you will be implicated or not."
Worthless.
After a long silence, Xiao Juanhao said gloomily. In the early years, he had drawn Meng Yi to his side simply because Meng Yi had always been by Jiang Hong's side. But now, Xiao Juanhao realized that without Jiang Hong, Meng Yi was useless. Pei Wu stood aside and said nothing. After Xiao Juanhao finished cursing, Pei Wu whispered, "Your Highness, we have to decide this matter as soon as possible. Otherwise, when they arrive in the capital, it will be too late. You will personally handle this matter. Tell him to keep his mouth shut and say that I will find a way to save him. No matter what, clam him down first."
Yes.
Pei Wu left after bowing to Xiao Juanhao. Xiaonani brought Jiang Peihuan into the city. Instead of going to the palace, Jiang Peihuan went straight back to the Jiang mansion. After all, she had already drawn attention by delivering the grain. If a woman like her appeared in the court at this time, she would probably incur the displeasure of many people. Huan Heir. As Jiang Peihuan walked to the entrance of the general's mansion with Yishao, she saw a group of people waiting at the entrance. At the forefront was old Madame Jiang. Seeing the old madam standing at the entrance, Jiang Peihuan quickly approached and said, "Grandmother, why did you come out?" In the past, even when Jiang Hong returned from a military campaign, the old madam rarely came out to welcome him. Therefore, when she saw old Madame Jiang waiting at the entrance, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with gratitude. Old Madame Jiang held Jiang Peihuan's hand tightly and looked at her carefully. Then, she said softly, "It's good that you're back. Grandmother was really worried when you weren't around." "I made grandmother worry. It's all Huan Heir's fault." "Don't say such things. It's good that you are back. You just returned and must be tired. Go and rest for a while, and we'll dine together at my place in the evening." "Yes, grandmother." In fact, Jiang Peihuan did not feel very tired. After all, she was in a carriage on her way back. But hearing old Madame Jiang's words, she still nodded gently. After Jiang Peihuan bowed to everyone in the Jiang family, she returned to her own plum garden. Upon arriving at Plum Garden, Jiang Peihuan turned to Yishao and said, "Keep an eye on the palace and inform me of any news. I want to know how the emperor will deal with Meng Yi."
Yes.
Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yishao immediately left the Plum Garden. The Imperial Palace, Qinqing Hall. "Who sent you to Jiangzhou?" Looking at Meng Yi, who was bound tightly, Emperor Qi Ming asked with darkened eyes. Standing below, Xiao Juanhao clenched his fists when he saw this scene. Meng Yi's gaze swept across Xiao Juanhao, and then he replied softly, Your Majesty, I went there by myself. No one ordered me. Why have I heard that you have been frequently visiting the Prince Qing mansion recently? At this moment, Xiao Nani, who was sitting on the chair, spoke calmly. At his words, everyone turned to look at Xiao Juanhao, and upon hearing this, Xiao Junhao's heart tightened. He hadn't expected that Xiao Nani would know about Meng Yi's frequent visits to his mansion, as he thought that no one knew. Emperor Qi Ming hated it when princes and his ministers got close, so when he heard Xiao Nani's words, he looked coldly at Xiao Juanhao. Prince Qing, is this true? Denial was no longer an option. After a moment of thought, Xiao Juanhao nodded. Imperial Father, it is true. However, one invited General Meng into the mansion only because I wanted him to teach me martial arts. Everyone saw through this clumsy excuse immediately, and their eyes revealed mockery. Imperial Father, to my knowledge, my imperial uncle also frequently visits the general's mansion. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Emperor Qi Ming turned his gaze towards Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani remained seated, not changing his posture. When he met Emperor Qi Ming's gaze, he nodded directly. That's right. I often go to the general's mansion. I'm about to get married with the eldest miss of the Jiang family. Can't one go and see my future wife? Prince Qing, you claim that you invited Meng Yi to your mansion to teach you martial arts. Yet, I have heard that he spent a long time in your mansion the night before he left for Jiangzhou. Are you sure you had nothing to do with this? Imperial Uncle, what do you mean by this? Are you suspecting that I sent General Meng to Jiangzhou? What benefit would that bring me? I don't know what benefit it would bring to Prince Qing, but I am very clear about the harm it could bring to me. Imperial Uncle, how can you be so suspicious of me? Your Majesty, someone from the King Chujiang mansion seeks an audience. At this moment, Wang Kuren walked in front of Emperor Qi Ming. Upon hearing the words King Chujiang's mansion, Emperor Qi Ming's eyes revealed a hint of malice. The heads of King Chujiang and his son were right there in the box next to him. Seeing this, Emperor Qi Ming's expression eased slightly. He glanced at Wang Kuren and said calmly, Let them in. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 198. Bestowed Marriage. A moment later, Wang Kuren led Jiang Cheng and Jiang Yin into the grand hall. When everyone saw Jiang Yin, their eyes revealed some surprise, including Emperor Qi Ming. However, when he saw the two heads on the ground, he still said coldly, So, you two are the illegitimate son and daughter of King Chujiang? We pay our respects to your majesty. Jiang Cheng and Jiang Yin knelt down, and after they kowtowed to Emperor Qi Ming, they whispered, Your Majesty, our father, King Chujiang, has committed treason, and his household deserves severe punishment. But the hundreds of people in King Chujiang's mansion are innocent, as are the people of Jiangzhou. I beseech your majesty for mercy. When he finished speaking, Jiang Cheng directly kowtowed to the ground. Although Emperor Qi Ming's eyes were filled with gloominess, when he heard Jiang Cheng's words, the expression in his eyes softened. He looked at Jiang Cheng and said calmly, You are unlike your father. At this, Jiang Cheng didn't dare to respond. Seeing that you took the initiative to surrender, I can pardon the remaining people of King Chujiang Mansion. But from today, the King Chujiang Mansion must relinquish its military power in its territory, and all taxes will be increased by 20%. Do you have any objections? Your servant obeys your majesty's decree. One thank your majesty. Upon hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, Jiang Cheng quickly kowtowed. Jiangzhou was a vast coastal region, and increasing taxes by 20% was not significant for the area. As for military power in the territory, Jiang Cheng had long given up on such thoughts. At this time, Jiang Cheng turned to look at Jiang Yin beside him. Recalling her advice on their way there, Jiang Cheng took the initiative to speak. Your Majesty, there is a favor I would like to ask. What is it? Speak, said the emperor. Perhaps it was because Jiang Cheng was very tactful, so Emperor Qi Ming's attitude was still quite amicable at this moment. Jiang Cheng glanced at Jiang Yin and then looked at Emperor Qi Ming and said, Your Majesty, My elder sister has always admired the splendor of the capital. Therefore, she wishes to marry into the capital. I beseech your majesty to grant her a marriage." Hearing this, Emperor Qi Ming's gaze landed on Jiang Yin. For some unknown reason, Emperor Qi Ming then glanced at Xiao Juanhao. Feeling the emperor's gaze on him, Xiao Junhao's heart skipped a beat. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Emperor Qi Ming's voice. "In that case, one will bestow a marriage for Miss Jiang to Prince Qing, making her his main consort." Imperial father? Emperor Qi Ming's voice was not loud, but it reached the ears of everyone in the grand hall. Upon hearing the emperor's words, Xiao Junhao's face changed completely. His eyes were filled with resistance and unwillingness. But when Emperor Qi Ming heard his voice, he looked at him calmly and asked, "Are you dissatisfied with my decree?" "I dare not." "Thank you, Imperial Father." Xiao Juanhao clenched his fists tightly. After a few seconds of silence, he smiled and kowtowed to Emperor Qi Ming. Jiang Yin was also stunned by Emperor Qi Ming's arrangement. She had always been proud of her beauty and thought that Emperor Qi Ming would take her into the palace. She did not expect the emperor to directly bestow her to Prince Qing. Subconsciously, Jiang Yin looked towards Xiao Juanhao. She had inquired about the emperor's sons before coming here, and it seemed that this Prince Qing was not favored by Emperor Qi Ming. But at this moment, she had no other choice. At this moment, Emperor Qi Ming smiled and looked at Jiang Yin. "Miss Jiang, one will bestow you with the marriage of Prince Qing as his main consort. What are your thoughts?" "Your servant daughter is thankful, Your Majesty," Jiang Yin replied quickly, kneeling to pay her respects. Everyone looked displeased, except for Xiao Nani, who saw Xiao Junhao's dark expression and a mocking smile appeared on his face. "Nani, what do you think of this marriage?" the emperor asked. "It is an excellent arrangement by Your Majesty, only what?" At this moment, Xiao Nanya's gaze fell on Xiao Juanhao. Meeting his eyes, Xiao Nani said with a faint smile, "I have heard that Prince Qing and General Lin's legitimate daughter are very close. One wonder how Prince Qing will explain this to Miss Lin, now that Your Majesty has made this sudden decision." "Miss Lin of the Lin family?" Emperor Qi Ming looked towards Xiao Nani, a hint of puzzlement in his eyes. Xiao Junhao's face, however, had already turned uglier than words could describe. Emperor Qi Ming's gaze was now fixed on Xiao Juanhao. Looking at him, the emperor asked directly, "Is what your imperial uncle said true?" Xiao Juanhao was eager to deny it. But if he denied it today, it would be difficult for him to marry Lin Mingyao in the future, as that would be deceiving the emperor. His thoughts raced. After a moment of silence, Xiao Juanhao bowed deeply and said to Emperor Qi Ming, "Imperial Father, please forgive me. 1 a.m. genuinely fond of eldest Miss Lin of the Lin family. Since that's the case, then one will bestow Miss Lin to you as a side consort." After thinking for a moment, Emperor Qi Ming continued, "In less than 2 months, your imperial uncle is set to marry Miss Jiang. Given this, let the Ministry of Rites handle both weddings. On that day, your main consort and side consort can both enter your mansion. Under normal circumstances, it is rare for the main consort and side consort to be welcomed into the household at the same time. But since Emperor Qi Ming had spoken, Xiao Juanhao had no choice but to obey. "Thank you, Imperial Father." Beside them, Jiang Yin remained silent, as if she hadn't heard the conversation at all. When Zhang Peihuan was mentioned, Emperor Qi Ming's eyes suddenly landed on Xiao Nani. "Speaking of which, this time I have to properly reward Jiang Hong's eldest daughter of the Jiang family. Wang Kuan, later go to the treasury room and select some items to send to the General Jiang mansion."
Yes.
"Imperial brother, there's no need for Chief Wang to make a trip. I will take care of it," Xiao Nanyi said. "Also, Chief Wang may not know Huan Heir's preferences. Thus, I shall take on the responsibility of choosing the gifts. Are you planning to empty my private treasury again?" "Imperial brother, that's such an unfair thing to say. When have I ever emptied your private treasury? I don't have the patience to argue with you." Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Emperor Qi Ming glared at him irritably, but there wasn't a trace of real anger. Those who were present and witnessing this exchange had complex expressions in their eyes. "Wang Kuan, go to the Lin family and deliver the decree."
Yes.
An hour later, Wang Kuan, with the imperial decree in hand, made his way to the Lin mansion. As the grand doors of the Lin mansion opened, everyone's faces were lit with brilliant smiles, especially Madame Lin. As long as Lin Mingyao married into the Qing mansion, she would become the true mistress of the household in the future. No one could humiliate her. "Yao heir, you're truly my good daughter," Madame Lin said, beaming as she looked at Lin Mingyao, who was walking beside her. For some reason, Lin Mingyao had an inexplicable feeling of unease in her heart. But seeing that the person who came to deliver the decree was Wang Kuan, the chief eunuch at Emperor Qi Ming's side, she felt a bit more at ease. "Lord Lin, Madame Lin, congratulations," Wang Kuan said with a smile, and then he unrolled the decree. "By the Emperor's command, eldest Miss Lin is granted to Prince Qing as a side consort." "Side consort?" Lin Mingyao repeated, her voice trembling with surprise and confusion. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 199. Side consort. The Lin family's people were all smiling, but when they heard Wang Kun's words, everyone's face changed, and Lin Mingyao's smile froze instantly. She raised her head, abandoning her usual composure, and directly addressed Wang Kuan. "Eunuch, could the decree have been announced incorrectly?" "Miss Lin, you must be joking. I wouldn't dare to commit such a serious crime," Wang Kuan replied with a smile. Although Wang Kun's face still held a trace of a smile, but there was no humor in his eyes. He looked at Lin Mingyao and spoke softly, "Miss Lin, please accept the decree." Holding the imperial decree in Wang Kun's hands, Lin Mingyao felt as if she was about to collapse, but still forced a smile. "This servant obeys the decree. Eunuch, allow me to see you out." Lin Rahai, who had many years of experience in officialdom, hurriedly approached as Wang Kuan was leaving. As Lin Rahai saw Wang Kuan out, he subtly slipped a pouch into Wang Kun's hand. The pouch was light and weightless. Clearly, it was filled with silver notes. "Lord Lin is too kind," said Wang Kuan, his face brightening as he pocketed the pouch. Stepping forward, Lin Rahai lowered his voice and asked, "Eunuch, could you give me some hint as to the reason behind this decree?" "Lord Lin, the main consort of Prince Qing, is the daughter of the King Chujiang mansion," Wang Kuan replied. After saying this, he refused to say any more and walked away. "Lin mansion? Heh, just a mere concubine. They sugar-coated as side consort, but isn't she still just a concubine?" "Yao heir, what's going on?" Upon hearing the decree, Lin Rahai's other wives began to mock. Madame Lin dared not quarrel with them and looked directly at Lin Mingyao. However, Lin Mingyao didn't look at anyone in the Lin mansion and ran out. "Yao heir?" Madame Lin's eyes were filled with anxiety as she watched Lin Mingyao's back. After leaving the Lin mansion, Lin Mingyao ran straight to Prince Qing's mansion. "Miss Lin?" As she arrived at the entrance, she saw Pei Wu. Seeing him, Lin Mingyao immediately asked, "Is His Highness here? One need to see him." "I will take you to him," replied Pei Wu. "Thank you." Lin Mingyao followed Pei Wu to the door of Xiao Junhao's study. Lin Mingyao's eyes were filled with unwillingness, but she still knocked on the door. "Come in." Hearing the voice from inside, Lin Mingyao pushed the door open and entered. Xiao Junhao was practicing calligraphy. Lin Mingyao approached and bowed to him, saying, "Your Highness." Hearing Lin Mingyao's voice, the ink under Xiao Junhao's brush dripped onto the paper. He put down his brush and looked up at Lin Mingyao. Seeing the redness in her eyes, Xiao Junhao softly said, "It seems you have already received Imperial Father's decree. Your Highness, please tell me what's going on." Why am I only a side consort?" As she mentioned side consort, Lin Mingyao tightly clenched her fists. She had put all her heart and soul into this man just to take a gamble. But now, she was only a side consort. At this thought, tears rolled down from Lin Mingyao's eyes. Seeing her tears, Xiao Junhao rushed over, gently wiping them away with a handkerchief, and softly said, "Yao heir, 1 am sorry, but rest assured, one will compensate you in the future." "Compensate? How will your Highness compensate me?" "The one who bestowed you to me as the side consort was Imperial Father. I have no way of disobeying Imperial Father's decree. But in the future, When one ascend to that position, I will definitely reserve that most precious position to you. Xiao Junhao's voice was soft but clear. Lin Mingyu's eyes remained full of resentment, but the fiery red had subsided. Xiao Juanhao reached out and hugged Lin Mingyao. He whispered into her ear, "Yao heir, trust me." His voice was somewhat choked. After a long silence, Lin Mingyao whispered back, "I trust your highness." Even if she didn't, she had no other options now. "I heard your main consort is the miss from the King Chujiang mansion?"
Yes.
"I heard that she's very beautiful." Xiao Juanhao didn't answer. "General mansion. Plum garden. Eldest Miss Jiang is here," Yu announced. While engrossed in a book, Zhang Peihuan heard Yu voice and put her book down. Shortly after, Zhang Peihuan saw Jiang Yin, who was accompanied by her maid, walk into the plum garden. Seeing her, Zhang Peihuan's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Although they traveled together back from Jiangzhou, Zhang Peihuan had been sitting in the carriage with Xiao Nani, so she hadn't had much interaction with Jiang Yin. Hence, seeing Jiang Yin appearing in front of her now, Zhang Peihuan felt quite puzzled. "I've already been betrothed to Prince Qing as the main consort by the emperor," Jiang Yin said as she approached Zhang Peihuan, stating the matter directly. Upon hearing this, Zhang Peihuan's eyes widened in surprise. In her previous life, such an event had never occurred. However, at this moment, what Zhang Peihuan was thinking about was not Jiang Yan's marriage to Xiao Juanhao, but rather Lin Mingyao. She was the white moonlight in Xiao Junhao's heart. In her previous life, it was because she had blocked the way. Zhang Peihuan thought that in this life, Lin Mingyao would definitely become Xiao Junhao's main consort. She didn't expect Jiang Yin to appear in this situation. Seeing Yu place the tea in front of Jiang Yin, Zhang Peihuan said softly, "Did Miss Jiang specially come here today to inform me of this? If so, then one congratulate Miss Jiang. Miss Jiang, do you know that the emperor not only grant me to the Prince Qing as his main consort, but also gave him a side consort?" Before Zhang Peihuan could respond, Jiang Yin continued, "The side consort of Prince Qing is none other than the eldest miss of the Lin family." Hearing this, Zhang Peihuan's heart skipped a beat, but she maintained her composure. She picked up the tea from the table, took a delicate sip, and then looked at Jiang Yin, saying, "Miss Jiang Yin, please feel free to speak your mind. I want to cooperate with you," said Miss Jiang Yin. Zhang Peihuan raised an eyebrow but remained silent. Seeing this, Jiang Yin continued, "They say the enemy of one's enemy is a friend. One know that the Jiang family and the Lin family have always been archenemies, so I think that at least regarding the matter of Miss Lin, you and I can be on the same page. I'm sorry, but one don't think I can work with Miss Jiang." Zhang Peihuan replied directly. Hearing this, Jiang Yin was visibly stunned. She looked at Zhang Peihuan and asked, "Why? Don't you really hate the people of the Lin family?" "I do indeed hate the people of the Lin family," Zhang Peihuan admitted, "but I hate Prince Qing even more." In her previous life, she naturally harbored resentment towards Lin Mingyao, but compared to Lin Mingyao, Xiao Juanhao was the real villain. Seeing Jiang Yin staring at her wide-eyed, Zhang Peihuan didn't feel like explaining further. Looking at Jiang Yin, she calmly said, "Miss Jiang Yin, please leave. Someone, see the guest out," Zhang Peihuan ordered. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 200. Meng Yi's suicide. Before Jiang Yin could finish speaking, Zhang Peihuan interrupted her directly. Meeting her puzzled gaze, Zhang Peihuan continued to speak. "Miss Jiang, I know you want to establish your own connections in the capital, but you shouldn't have come to me." "Miss Jiang, please leave." Yu was waiting at the door. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's voice, she immediately walked in. Jiang Yin still wanted to say something, but when she saw Zhang Peihuan's cold expression, she eventually turned around and left. When she walked out of the door, Jiang Yin saw a familiar figure. It was Xiao Nani. Jiang Yin's gaze was firmly fixed on Xiao Nani, but the man seemed to not see her, smiling warmly as he walked towards the plum garden. "Juan heir." As he approached the entrance, Xiao Nani softly called. His voice was very gentle. Hearing this, a complex look appeared in Jiang Yan's eyes. She paused for a moment, but eventually left directly. Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's voice, some of the indifference in Jiang Paihuan's eyes dissipated. Although she appeared normal, Xiao Nani clearly sensed a change in her demeanor. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, who was sitting in the chair, the man softly asked, "What's the matter? Are you in a bad mood?" Jiang Peihuan did not expect Xiao Nani to be so sensitive. She thought about it and said softly, "Miss Jiang just came." Hearing this, Xiao Nani frowned. He sat down opposite Jiang Peihuan. As Yu'er was about to pour water for him, she saw the man pick up Jiang Peihuan's teacup and drain it in one gulp. Afterward, he poured himself a cup of tea. Seeing this, Yu'er walked away with a smile. She has already been granted to Prince Qing as the main consort by imperial brother, Xiao Nani said. "I know. Miss Jiang just told me." "Oh right, this is a reward from my imperial brother." As he spoke, Xiao Nani glanced at Han Feng. The latter quickly stepped forward and placed a box in front of Jiang Peihuan. "Open it and see." Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Jiang Peihuan gently opened the box before her. There were all kinds of jewelry inside, and every one of them was extraordinary. Seeing these items, a slight smile appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. "Why would His Majesty bestow so many rewards to me? It's what you deserve. By the way, Mengyi has already been imprisoned by the Emperor." Upon hearing Mengyi's name, a cold look appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. After thinking for a moment, she looked at Xiao Nani and said, "Didn't His Majesty interrogate Mengyi?" "He has indeed been interrogated, but no matter what, Mengyi refuses to speak." So, seeing Jiang Peihuan's expression turning grim, Xiao Nani softly said, "Don't worry, we will eventually find out everything Mengyi has done. I'm not worried." At this moment, "The ones who should be anxious aren't us," Jiang Peihuan replied softly. Hearing her words, Xiao Nani was slightly taken aback, but then he laughed and said, "Huan Er is right. The ones who should be anxious at this moment are not us." A faint, inexplicable mockery appeared in the man's smiling eyes. Prince Qing's mansion. Finally managing to calm Lin Mingyao, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with exhaustion after she left. At this moment, Pei Wu stepped forward and said, "Your Highness, Mengyi is still in prison. What should we do?" Pei Wu made a gesture of slitting his throat, but Xiao Junhao shook his head. "Imperial father is already suspicious of me. At this time, if we kill Mengyi, it will surely bring disaster upon us. Then, Your Highness, do we still have to save Mengyi? In this world, only the dead can keep secrets. We definitely can't let him out." A shadow crossed Xiao Junhao's eyes as he looked directly at Pei Wu. "You go to the prison personally and tell Mengyi that the Prince Qing mansion will take care of his family." Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, a complex look appeared in Pei Wu's eyes, but he still nodded, "One understand?" After bowing to Xiao Junhao, Pei Wu went straight to the prison. Being a guard close to Prince Qing, he entered the prison directly. General Meng? Inside the prison, Mengyi, disheveled, lay on the straw, but he was still conscious. Hearing the voice, he quickly approached the cell door. Seeing Pei Wu, his eyes lit up. "Guard Pei, did His Highness send you to save me? Go back and tell His Highness that no matter how they interrogate me, I will not betray him. The loyalty of General Meng is well known to His Highness." Then, "General Meng, His Highness has a message for you." Before Mengyi could finish speaking, Pei Wu interrupted him in a soft voice. Hearing Pei Wu's voice, a complex look crossed Mengyi's eyes, but he still whispered, "What is it?" "His Highness said that he will take good care of your family." What did you say?" Mengyi looked at Pei Wu, and his expression instantly changed. Seeming to realize something, he suddenly laughed. "Don't worry, I understand what His Highness means." Pei Wu didn't say anything more, but saluted Mengyi. With a bitter and mocking smile on his face, Mengyi watched Pei Wu's figure disappear around the corner before pulling a dagger from his sleeve. He aimed the dagger at his own heart and stabbed it directly. In his daze, Mengyi seemed to see Jiang Hong. "Do you regret it?" When he heard the voice near his ear, Mengyi realized that he was not dreaming. He turned his head and saw Jiang Hong, whose eyes were filled with complexity. Jiang Hong had intended to visit Mengyi, but he did not expect to witness his suicide. Jiang Hong stepped forward and checked Mengyi's wound, then waved to the people behind him. never expected to see you before dying. Looking at Jiang Hong standing beside him, Meng Yi spoke mockingly. Do you have any last wishes? Jiang Hong remained silent until he saw that Meng Yi was barely breathing, then finally spoke. Upon hearing this, Meng Yi's eyes opened slightly but quickly dimmed. He shook his head weakly and whispered, I'm sorry. Meng Yi's voice was very faint, but it still reached Jiang Hong's ears. After saying this, Meng Yi closed his eyes. A jailer nearby stepped forward, checked, and then said to Jiang Hong, Great General, this man is dead. Jiang Hong glanced at Meng Yi on the ground, and finally looked at the jailer and said, Report to the Emperor.
Yes.
News of Meng Yi's suicide in prison spread quickly. When the news reached Jiang Paihuan's ears, her eyes flickered. You heir, come with me to Yinlin. Eldest miss, are you planning to return the command seal to the first madam? Looking at the commander's seal on the table, Yu heir asked softly. Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything but nodded. Holding the commander's seal, Jiang Peihuan took Yu heir and headed straight for Yinlin. But as soon as they arrived at the entrance, they heard the quarreling voices of Jiang Hong and his wife. I absolutely disagree with keeping them in the mansion, a voice insisted fiercely. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool.com. Chapter 201. Meng Yi's child. It was Shui Yan's voice. Hearing the argument, Jiang Paihuan's eyes showed a hint of confusion. The relationship between the Jiang Hong couple had always been extremely good. Over so many years, they had hardly ever had any disagreements. Jiang Peihuan quickened her pace involuntarily. Father, mother, she called as she entered the main hall, bowing to both of them. Huan heir, why are you here? Seeing Jiang Peihuan, Shui Yan ceased her quarreling with Jiang Hong and turned to smile at her daughter. I came to return this command seal to mother, Peihuan replied. As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan handed the Flying Feathers Army command seal to Shui Yan. Seeing the command seal in her hand, Shui Yan softly said, Once given to you, this command seal is yours. Mother, you created the Flying Feathers Army, so it's better to keep it in your hands. If I need to use the Flying Feather Army in the future, one can always come to you for the command seal, Jiang Peihuan added. In that case, I will keep it for now, Shui Yan conceded. Hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, Shui Yan didn't say anything more, but took the command seal from her daughter's hand. After handing over the command seal, Jiang Peihuan turned to look at her parents and quietly asked, Father, mother, I just heard you're arguing. Has something happened at home? Huan heir, Meng Yi has committed suicide in prison, Jiang Hong revealed. Jiang Peihuan already knew about this news. She didn't say anything, but continued to look at Jiang Hong, waiting for him to continue. Jiang Hong glanced at Shui Yan. Seeing that she didn't interrupt him, he continued. He left behind 2 children. One want to bring them back to our mansion and raise them. Father, since Meng Yi has committed suicide, what about Madame Meng? Jiang Peihuan asked, furrowing her brow upon hearing this. At this point, she finally understood why Shui Yan had been arguing with Jiang Hong. Back in the Northern Territory, Meng Yi had almost poisoned Jiang Changbai. Now Jiang Hong intended to raise Meng Yi's children in their mansion, and the more Shui Yan thought about it, the angrier she became. Seeing Jiang Paihuan's expression darken, Jiang Hong's voice dropped further. That woman has already run away. Madame Meng had taken all of the Meng family's property and fled, leaving behind her 2 children. I will absolutely not agree to raise those 2 children in our mansion. Have you forgotten what Meng Yi did? Shui Yan told Jiang Hong, her voice cold. Yan heir, I know that what Meng Yi did is unforgivable, but the children are innocent. We watched them grow up, and if we don't bring them home, they will be left with no one, Jiang Hong pleaded. Shui Yan's eyes still showed her disagreement, but thinking of the 2 children, she remained silent. Jiang Peihuan was aware of Meng Yi's 2 children, a boy and a girl. The boy was now 8 years old, and the girl was only 3. After some thought, Jiang Peihuan looked at her parents and suggested, Father, Meng Yi was a member of Prince Qing's mansion. Now that he is dead, doesn't Prince Qing have anything to say? The royal family has always been heartless. Meng Yi is already dead. How could Prince Qing care about the lives of those two children? Jiang Hong responded, his eyes filled with a stormy darkness. She could not help but sigh in her heart. Jiang Peihuan looked at Shui Yin. Mother, these two children are young. It's normal for father to be unwilling to see them homeless. How about this? Let's bring them into our mansion for now, and when they are a bit older, we can make other arrangements. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Hong's eyes brightened, and he quickly turned to look at Shui Yin. Faced with her husband and daughter's expressions, Shui Yin spoke grumpily. You two are so soft-hearted, leaving me to play the villain. That means you agree. Jiang Hong quickly stepped forward, took Shui Yin's hand gently and whispered, Yin thank you. Seeing this scene before her, Jiang Peihuan smiled and turned to leave. Jiang Peihuan was extremely disgusted with Ming Yi, but his two children are innocent. Furthermore, Jiang Peihuan understood her father's character better than anyone. While it was true that Ming Yi had betrayed him, their many years of acquaintance were also a reality. After leaving Yinlin, Jiang Peihuan planned to return to her own garden. But halfway through, Jiang Peihuan saw Jian Mei, who was out for a walk. Jiang Mei's belly was already slightly protruding. She was supported by a maid with one hand and her stomach with the other. When she saw Jiang Peihuan, she stopped in her tracks. When their eyes met, both fell silent. In the end, it was Jian Mei who spoke first. I heard that Uncle Ming is dead. Yes, Jiang Peihuan nodded in response. Jiang Peihuan's gaze fell on Jian Mei's belly. Perhaps because of her pregnancy, her demeanor seemed much softer. After a glance, Jiang Peihuan gently said, Now that you are pregnant, you need to take good care of yourself. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Mei was taken aback for a moment before softly saying, Thank you. I thought you would hate me very much. After all, I approached the second master with an ulterior motive, Jian Mei added. Regardless of your previous intentions, now you are carrying the child of the Jiang family. For this reason alone, the Jiang family will treat you well, Jiang Peihuan responded. It's getting colder. If there's nothing else, you should go back to your courtyard and rest, she advised. After saying this, Jiang Peihuan headed straight back to her own palm garden. As she entered the courtyard, Jiang Peihuan noticed some fallen leaves. She wasn't sure if it was her imagination, but she felt a hint of winter in the air. Eldest Miss, King Cheng is here. Jiang Peihuan heard Lu Er's voice as soon as she stepped into the room. Walking up to her, Lu Er smiled and said, Eldest Miss, His Highness King Cheng has gone to the old madam's chrysanthemum hall. The old madam has sent someone to invite you over. A moment later, Jiang Peihuan, accompanied by Yu Er and Lu Er, went to the old madam's chrysanthemum hall. When Jian Peihuan arrived, Xiao Nani was sitting and chatting with old Madam Jiang. Old Madam, Eldest Miss is here, Nanny Su announced in a soft voice when she saw Jiang Peihuan. Everyone seated instinctively looked towards the entrance. Under everyone's gaze, Jiang Peihuan walked forward and bowed to old Madam Jiang before bowing to Xiao Nani. Grandmother, she greeted. Come and sit beside me. Seeing Jiang Peihuan, old Madam Jiang smiled and waved at her. Jiang Peihuan did not refuse and took 2 steps forward to sit next to her grandmother. Eldest sister, His Highness King Cheng said that he wanted to bring us to the West Mountain to hunt. Grandmother has already agreed. Zhang Ruyan also sat down below the old madam. If it was before, seeing the old madam being so close to Jiang Peihuan, she would definitely feel uncomfortable and even jealous. But now, when she saw this scene, she only felt admiration without any discomfort. Hearing Zhang Ruyan's words, Jiang Peihuan turned her eyes towards Xiao Nani. The man met her gaze and said softly, This season is the perfect time for hunting. I've already told the Imperial Brother that one want to go to the West Mountain to hunt, and the Imperial Brother has agreed. West Mountain was the royal garden and the best hunting ground in the capital. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full.com. Chapter 202. Set off for the West Mountain, then when are we setting off? Jiang Peihuan didn't refuse. Instead, she looked at Xiao Nani and asked, I've already made arrangements. We can go over today, he replied. Listening to Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan's conversation, the smile in old Madame Jiang's eyes deepened. After Xiao Nani finished speaking, Old Madame Jiang reached out and patted Jiang Paihuan's hand, saying, Go have some fun with your sister. All right, then I'll hunt a good pelt for grandmother, Jiang Peihuan replied. Winter came early in the capital, and it was time to prepare for the cold. Hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, the smile in old Madame Jiang's eyes deepened. She nodded and then spoke warmly, Good, I will wait for your pelt. After leaving the chrysanthemum hall, Jiang Peihuan looked at the man beside her and said, I'm going to prepare a few things. I will go with you. Before Jiang Peihuan could finish her sentence, Xiaonani softly interrupted her. Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything, just led Xiaonani to the plum garden. Yu'er, her maid, was already packing things. Looking at the packed parcels, Jiang Peihuan gently said to Yu'er, Come with me to the West Mountain for a few days. Eldest miss, you should take Yishao and Lu'er with you. One will stay home and look after the mansion, Yu'er quietly replied. Jiang Peihuan had two maids, Yu'er, who was steady, and Lu'er, who was lively. Seeing Yu'er's insistence, Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything more. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan got into Xiao Nanye's carriage, followed by Jiang Rian's carriage. I asked someone to buy this just now. Try it. As soon as Jiang Peihuan sat down, she saw Xiao Nani open the box of pastries on the table. Xiao Nanye's carriage was very spacious, with a low table in the middle covered with food. Jiang Peihuan took a pastry that Xiao Nani handed to her. She wasn't someone who cared much for food, but after taking a bite of the pastry, she had to admit that it tasted excellent. How is it? He asked softly after she swallowed. Seeing the expectant look in his eyes, Jiang Peihuan nodded and said, It tastes very good. As she spoke, she picked up another piece and handed it to Xiao Nani, saying, You should try it too. Accepting the pastry from Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanye's eyes were full of smiles. After tasting it, he smiled and said, Indeed, it tastes excellent. Han Feng, who was outside the carriage, couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard the voices inside. He distinctly remembered Xiao Nanye's disdainful expression when he had first presented these pastries. Throughout the journey, Xiao Nani was very attentive to Jiang Peihuan, serving her tea and water, so she didn't have to lift a finger. Despite his inner comments on his master's behavior, Han Feng noted that Xiao Nani seemed delighted with the situation. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan was about to put down her teacup, Xiao Nani preemptively reached out to take it from her. After placing the cup on the table, he turned to look at Jiang Peihuan's lovely face and said, It takes 4 hours to reach West Mountain. You should rest for a bit, Huan Er. The carriage was very spacious, and Xiao Nani did not sit beside Jiang Peihuan, instead giving the main seat to her. Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Jiang Peihuan softly asked, I'm not tired. Are there any books in the carriage?
Yes.
As her words fell, Xiao Nani pushed the low table in front of him forward a little. Then, a secret chamber was revealed. It was filled with all kinds of books. Jiang Peihuan glanced and noticed that there were various types of books, including medical ones. She reached out and picked up a book on regional miscellaneous studies. While Jiang Peihuan was reading, Xiao Nani didn't disturb her, but his eyes were fixed on her face. The man's gaze was very warm and also carried an inexplicable sense of joy. At first, Jiang Peihuan wasn't used to it, but she gradually became quite comfortable. Jiang Peihuan calmly read her book, and Xiao Nani sat quietly beside her, occasionally refilling her tea. But this tranquility was soon broken. The carriage suddenly came to a stop, and due to inertia, Jiang Peihuan was thrown to one side. Subconsciously, Xiao Nani reached out and grabbed her shoulders. Are you all right?
I'm fine.
Seeing that Jiang Peihuan didn't hit the wall of the carriage, Xiao Nanye's expression became better. However, when he looked outside, his eyes were filled with coldness. What happened? The curtain of the carriage was lifted instantly. Xiao Nani looked at Han Feng and said coldly, It seems to be Prince Huainan, Han Feng replied. However, it seems that they are here for the second Mississippi. At this point, Jiang Peihuan had already heard Xiao Jun's voice. Prince Huainan, I hope you will behave yourself, he called out. Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani exchanged a glance, and they both stepped out of the carriage. Beside the carriage behind them, Zhao Fucking, leading a team of men on horses, appeared next to Jiang Ruyun. Because Jiang Ruyun and Jiang Peihuan came together to avoid embarrassment, she had brought Chao Jun with her. At this moment, seeing Zhao Fucking's arrival, Chao Jun immediately positioned himself protectively in front of Jiang Ruyun. Sitting on his horse and looking at Chao Jun who stood before him, Zhao Fucking's eyes were full of disdain. Who do you think you are, daring to raise your voice in front of me? Although Zhao Fucking was a prince, Chao Jun currently held no official position. Hearing this, his eyes showed a hint of discomfort, but he remained steadfast in front of Jiang Ruyun. Seeing this scene, Jiang Peihuan was a little more satisfied with Chao Jun. And who are you to speak to me in such a manner? Before Jiang Peihuan could speak, Xiao Nanye's voice was heard. At this moment, Xiao Nanye's face was completely cold, and his eyes revealed undisguised contempt and mockery. Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Zhao Fucking's eyes momentarily darkened, but the shadow quickly dissipated. Dismounting his horse, he respectfully greeted Xiao Nanye. Greetings to your highness, King Cheng. Seeing this, a slight smirk played at the corner of Xiao Nanye's eyes. I apologize for disturbing you, your highness, Zhao Fucking said. If you know it is a disturbance, then behave yourself, Xiao Nanye replied, his tone full of warning.
Yes.
Zhong Fucking's eyes were gloomy, but his attitude was very gentle. Even if he was talking to Xiao Nanye, Jiang Peihuan still felt a little strange. However, since Zhao Fucking didn't make further provocations, Jiang Peihuan chose not to say anything. She followed Xiao Nanye back into the carriage. After sitting down in the carriage, she turned to Xiao Nanye and said, It seems that Prince Huainan is also heading to West Mountain for hunting. That seems to be the case, he replied. But West Mountain is vast. With me present, he will likely keep his distance. If you're uncomfortable with this, I can tell him to leave, Xiao Nanye offered. As he spoke, he prepared to lift the carriage curtain, but Jiang Peihuan held his hand to stop him. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 203. Hunting. Facing the man's puzzled expression, Jiang Peihuan whispered, Regardless, he is the prince of the Huainan mansion. If he's here, it must be with the emperor's consent. As you've mentioned, West Mountain is vast. Then well proceed as you suggest. Aside from Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanye paid no attention to anyone else. Although the atmosphere in Jiang Peihuan's carriage was serene, the carriage behind, which carried Jiang Ruyun, was enshrouded in silence. Brother Chao, you don't need to explain. I understand. Panic filled Jiang Ruyun's eyes, but Chao Jun took her hand reassuringly. Seeing his comforting gaze, Jiang Ruyun's anxiety subsided, but then she exclaimed, I have no ties to him anymore. I don't know why he's even here. It's hunting season. Perhaps it's merely a coincidence. Noticing Jiang Ruyun's lingering distress, Chao Jun soothed her, Don't fret. With King Cheng around, one doubt Prince Huainan would act recklessly. Furthermore, West Mountain is vast. We might not even encounter him. That's true. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye reached the West Mountain. Xiao Nanye had already arranged for tents to be set up. Gazing at the distant scenery, Jiang Peihuan felt a weight lifted off her shoulders. Everyone seemed to have put Zhao Fucking out of their minds. However, unbeknownst to them, Zhao Fucking was in a nearby tent with Yin Xian. Yin Xian whispered, Seeing the fury in Zhao Fucking's eyes, Your Highness, don't seethe. Hunting has its risks. If anything were to happen to Chao Jun, no one would be blamed. The mere mention of Chao Jun caused Yin Zin's expression to darken. Recalling how Chao Jun had broken their engagement to marry Jiang Ruyun, turning her into the capital's laughingstock, Yin Xian was seething with rage. She sensed an opportunity when she learned that the Jiang sisters were heading to West Mountain for a hunt. This led her to seek out Zhao Fucking, precipitating the day's events. All of this remained unknown to Jiang Peihuan. After freshening up, they exited the tent. Jiang Peihuan paired up with Xiao Nanye. As she watched Jiang Ruyun and Chao Jun mount their horses, she advised, Be cautious and don't venture too far. Fear not, eldest Mississippi will ensure Ruyun's safety. Acknowledging Jiang Peihuan's words with respect, Chao Jun replied. Jiang Peihuan nodded and said nothing more. Even though the Chao family was renowned for their scholastic achievements, Chao Jun had been proficient in horse riding and archery since his youth. As Jiang Peihuan watched Jiang Ruyun and Chao Jun ride away, she joined Lai Feng, mounting the horse with agility. Xiao Nanye's gaze softened, observing her. After mounting his horse, Zhu Yun, Xiao Nani directed it beside Jiang Peihuan. Han Feng and Yi Xiao handed them their respective bows and quivers. Accepting the bow from Yi Xiao, Jiang Peihuan remarked, "It's hunting season. You can leave me be and enjoy yourself." "Understood," Yi Xiao responded with a nod. After stowing her equipment, Jiang Peihuan addressed Xiao Nani confidently, "Xiao Nani, I won't hold back." Her spirited demeanor drew a smile from Xiao Nani. "Neither will I." With a soft chuckle, Jiang Peihuan spurred Lai Feng forward. Having been with Jiang Peihuan for several years, Lai Feng responded keenly to her cues. At her command, it bolted like the wind. With reins in one hand and bow in the other, Jiang Peihuan took off. At this moment, it indeed was a good time for hunting. Jiang Peihuan hadn't gone far when she noticed a movement in the grass. Letting go of the reins, she drew an arrow from the quiver beside her. After knocking the arrow and pulling the bowstring, she aimed at the rustling grass. A brown rabbit sprang out from the bushes. Without hesitation, the arrow in Jiang Peihuan's hand was released. Jiang Peihuan's archery skills were personally taught by Jiang Hong, and even among the military, many were no match for her. Following closely behind Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nani watched her ride gallantly, a smile playing on his lips. Jiang Peihuan was dressed in a green dress, and her long hair was tied up casually with a green ribbon. As she rode her horse at full speed, her hair flowed behind her, creating a stunning silhouette. Watching as Jiang Peihuan's arrows always hit their mark, Xiao Nani also became interested. Over time, several of Jiang Peihuan's arrows hit the same prey as Xiao Nanye's. Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed some surprise. She knew that Xiao Nani was skilled in archery on horseback, but she hadn't expected him to be this outstanding. Jiang Peihuan became even more determined, and soon, many prey lay around her. Apart from rabbits and wild chickens, there were larger prey like deer and mountain goats. As Jiang Peihuan was heading deeper into the woods, she heard galloping hooves approaching. Alongside this was a scream. "Eldest miss?" Jiang Peihuan recognized the voice. It was Lan Er, the maid who served Jiang Ruyun. Most of the Jiang family's servants could ride and shoot, so at this moment, Lan Er was galloping towards Jiang Peihuan. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan halted her horse. "Eldest miss, Master Chao. Young Master Chao is in trouble." Panic filled Lan Er's eyes. Jiang Peihuan dismounted and approached her, whispering, "Calm down. What happened to Chao Jun?" "Young Master Chao is surrounded by a pack of wolves." "Wolves?" Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with confusion. However, this was not the time to pursue the matter. The most important thing now was to find Chao Jun. "Where's your second miss?" "Second miss is guarding young Master Chao. Lead the way."
Yes.
Jiang Peihuan instinctively looked towards Xiao Nani and found him already by her side, riding on his horse. Young Master Chao came today on the Jiang family's invitation. I should go and check on him. If something really happened to Chao Jun, no matter how gentle the Chao family was, they would still hate the Jiang family. After all, Chao Jun was the only son of the Chao family. "I'll go with you." Seeing that Jiang Peihuan still wanted to say something, Xiao Nani said, "With me around, there's no need for you to take risks. Lead the way." After saying that, he glanced at Lan Er. She quickly spurred her horse on. Then, Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan followed. They hadn't gone far when Jiang Peihuan heard the howls of wolves. While there were wolves in the West Mountain, they were deep in the mountains. Jiang Peihuan wondered how this pack had made its way to the outskirts. "Brother Chao, be careful." By the time Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani arrived, they saw a wolf lunging at Jiang Ruyun. Chao Jun, seeing this, immediately embraced Jiang Ruyun to shield her. Witnessing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly drew an arrow. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full.com. Chapter 204. Encountering wolves. Jiang Peihuan shot an arrow through the neck of a wolf. This arrow had saved Chao Jun but had also precipitated a significant disaster. Wolves are pack animals, but they are also highly vengeful. When the wolf fell, the wolf pack that had threatened Chao Jun and Jiang Ruyun immediately turned their attention to Jiang Peihuan, who held a bow and arrow. For a brief moment, the air was silent. Eldest Miss? Master? Han Feng and Yi Shao arrived at that instant. Surveying the scene before them, both displayed evident concern. After a tense pause, Jiang Peihuan knocked another arrow. Noticing the newcomers, she whispered, "Wolves are highly vengeful. In that case, let's not leave a single one alive," Xiao Nani declared, drawing his own bow as he spoke. Seeing this, both Han Feng and Yi Shao readied their bows and arrows. The four were skilled archers. In no time, many wolves lay slain. Jiang Ruyun and Chao Jun, who were surrounded by the wolf pack, did not dare to move. Chao Jun even shielded Jiang Ruyun behind him. "Eldest Miss, these beasts are running away." Being astute creatures, the wolves sensed the formidable presence of Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani and chose to flee. Hearing Yi Shao's voice, Jiang Peihuan didn't respond vocally but hastened her arrow shooting. In a matter of moments, the entire wolf pack was vanquished. Suddenly, Jiang Ruyun, her eyes wide with horror, cried out, "Elder sister, be careful behind you." Upon hearing Jiang Ruyun's warning, Jiang Peihuan immediately aimed her bow behind her, but it was a step too late. A white wolf lunged at Jiang Peihuan. She rolled away swiftly, but her clothes were torn by the wolf's claws, sending an icy chill down her spine. This wolf, larger than the rest, was clearly the pack's alpha. Reaching for her waist, Jiang Peihuan drew a black whip and lashed at the wolf, but it dodged, leaving a deep mark on the ground. "Master!" Realizing his quiver was empty, Xiao Nani tossed the bow to Han Feng and dashed towards Jiang Peihuan, drawing his long sword as he landed beside her. The alpha wolf glanced at Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani with its green eyes and charged forward. Its speed was remarkable. As Xiao Nani swung his sword, he pulled Jiang Peihuan behind him. "It's fast. Be careful not to get hurt." Back to back with Xiao Nani, Jiang Peihuan whispered, "I have a way to kill it. In a while, it'll take the initiative to attack. You aim for its eyes." As soon as she finished speaking, Jiang Peihuan flipped her wrist and the long whip lashed at the alpha wolf's neck, but it dodged in an instant. However, Jiang Peihuan did not care. Instead, she moved forward with determination. Jiang Peihuan's whip struck fiercely, but the alpha wolf's reactions were even faster. Once Jiang Ruyun saw that the immediate danger was past, she wanted to help. She began to move forward, but Chao Jun held her hand. "Ruyun, I'll go help elder sister." After saying that, Jiang Ruyun went forward. Upon seeing her, Jiang Peihuan said coldly, "Who told you to come over? Leave." "Elder sister, let me help you." Ignoring the coldness in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Jiang Ruyun walked forward and drew the long whip from her waist. The purple whip lashed out instantly towards the alpha wolf. The long purple whip instantly lashed towards the alpha wolf. Jiang Ruyun's martial arts were average. The whip in her hand was quite good. With Jiang Ruyun's participation, the alpha wolf obviously struggled more to dodge. The entire mountain was filled with the sound of wolves howling. Not far away, Yin Xian and Zhao Fucking, hearing the howls, had smiles in their eyes. "Now, I'm curious if they can survive this." Hearing this, Zhao Fucking remained silent, but a smug look was evident in his eyes. "Xiao Nani, do it." Jiang Peihuan's black whip suddenly wrapped around the Alpha King's neck, and she immediately looked at Xiao Nani. Hearing her voice, Xiao Nani swiftly thrust his sword not into the wolf's eyes as expected, but straight into its neck. Moreover, he pinned the Alpha King to the ground with his entire body. The Alpha King on the ground thrashed constantly, but Xiao Nani firmly held it down. The strength of the Alpha King was formidable, and just when it seemed that Xiao Nani couldn't hold it any longer, the veins in Jiang Peihuan's hand that held the whip protruded prominently. Seeing this, Jiang Ruyun hurriedly went to Jiang Peihuan's side and helped her pull the whip. Even so, the Alpha King continued to struggle. "Hurry!" Han Feng, witnessing this, quickly looked at Yi Shao. After exchanging glances, both drew the daggers from their waists. Then, Their daggers pierced straight into the alpha wolf chest and abdomen. Blood splattered over the two, but neither seemed to care. As the alpha wolf let out a tragic howl, Jiang Peihuan felt as though the entire mountain was shaking. The alpha wolf constantly tried to bite Xiaonani. Pain surged through Jiang Peihuan's palm, but she held onto the whip as if numb to the pain. Seeing blood seeping from Xiaonani's palm, Jiang Ruyan's face changed, and she gripped even harder. Chao Jun, who was nearby, also drew a dagger from his body and approached Xiaonani. Facing the snarling alpha wolf, fear flashed in Chao Jun's eyes, but he still raised his dagger and plunged it into the alpha wolf's neck. Jiang Peihuan distinctly felt the struggling force in her hands decrease significantly. Even so, the alpha wolf kept struggling, and no one dared to let go. When Jiang Peihuan felt that her palms were numb, she finally saw the alpha wolf lower its head. One air. Xiaonani immediately let go of the alpha wolf and went at Jiang Peihuan's side. Seeing her bloody palm, Xiaonani's expression turned extremely grim. Master, the medicine. Seeing this, Han Feng quickly took out the wound ointment. Ruyun, your hand. Chao Jun also walked to Jiang Ruyan's side. When he saw the blood on her palm, Chao Jun's eyes were filled with worry. Hearing his words, Jiang Ruyun shook her head. I'm fine. Elder sister's injury is worse than mine. Xiaonani had already applied the ointment to Jiang Peihuan's palm, and then handed the bottle to Chao Jun. Thank you, Your Highness. After thanking Xiaonani, Chao Jun quickly treated Jiang Ruyun. After the ordeal, no one was in the mood for hunting anymore, so they returned to their tents. Everyone gathered in Xiaonani's tent. After sitting down, Jiang Peihuan turned to Chao Jun and Jiang Ruyun. How did you encounter the pack of wolves? I don't know either, but it didn't seem like I stumbled upon the wolves. It felt more like they sought me out. Hearing Chao Jun's words, a hint of confusion appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Chapter 205. Zhao Fucking's leg was bitten off, facing the puzzled expression of Jiang Peihuan. Chao Jun continued, Ruyun and I were always on the outskirts, but the wolves suddenly appeared. Hearing this, the confusion in Jiang Peihuan's eyes deepened. Eldest miss? At this moment, Lu Er walked in from outside. In Lu Er's hand, there was also a white puppy. No, not a puppy, a wolf. Seeing Jin Peihuan looking at her, Lu Er said softly, Eldest miss, this was found in second miscarriage. No wonder. Wolves are very sensitive to scent. This little wolf cub was in your carriage, so your body was stained with the scent of the little wolf cub. So those wolves thought that you took the cub. But we never saw this wolf cub in the carriage before. Eldest miss, I've asked the people in the mansion. I heard that someone saw the people of Huainan Mansion pass by our side. Them? Hearing Lu Er's words, Jiang Ruyan's eyes were filled with anger. There was also a hint of anger in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, but she remained very calm. Looking at her bandaged right hand, she turned to Xiaonani and said, Let's return to the mansion in a few days. We came all this way after all. Because of Jiang Peihuan's injury, Xiaonani planned to return today. But hearing her words now, he nodded, as you wish. Then, Jiang Peihuan turned to Yishao. Find some herbs for me?
Yes.
That night, Jiang Peihuan handed the prepared medicine to Han Feng. Can you sprinkle this on the tent of the Prince Huainan? Taking the porcelain bottle from Jiang Peihuan, Han Feng confidently patted his chest and said with a smile, Don't worry, eldest miss, they'll get it done. Elder sister, what kind of medicine is it? Watching Han Feng leave, Jiang Ruyun couldn't help but ask Jiang Peihuan. Hearing her, Jiang Peihuan smiled and said, It's just a scent that certain wild beasts are fond of, but am not quite sure which wild beast it attracts. Eldest miss, what should we do with this little wolf cub? At this moment, Lu Er approached Jiang Peihuan, still holding the white wolf cub. Just by looking at the cub's fur, Jiang Peihuan knew it was the son of the alpha wolf. Logically, they shouldn't keep the wolf cub, but seeing it quietly nestled in Lu Er's arms, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but reach out to it. Jiang Peihuan had reached out her hand when the wolf cub stuck out its tongue and licked Jiang Peihuan's fingertips. After a moment of silence, Jiang Peihuan whispered, Let's raise it for now. Raise it? Eldest miss, you want to keep a wolf? For now, if it's a treacherous wolf, she won't keep it. Not far away, in the tent of the Prince Huainan mansion. Any news? He whispered to the man in front of him. As he finished speaking, a servant walked in. Your Highness, all the wolves are dead. What did you say? The servant repeated his words and continued. The alpha wolf is also dead. Hearing this, Zhao fucking was shocked and sat down in disbelief. As he was about to speak, there were screams outside the tent. What's going on? Before Zhao fucking could finish, the tent curtain was flung open. A black figure charged directly at Zhao fucking. He was startled, but having a few years of martial arts training, he dodged just in time. When he turned around, Zhong fucking realized that it was a black brown bear that had rushed in. With a hint of fear in his eyes, Zhong fucking hurriedly ran outside. The brown bear immediately pounced forward. Zhong fucking dodged to the side, but the brown bear bit into his leg. An intense pain instantly assaulted him. Zhong fucking let out a miserable cry. A nearby servant witnessed this and quickly rushed out, shouting, "Help! Someone save the prince!" Zhao fucking's miserable cry echoed throughout the valley, reaching Jiang Paihuan's ears. At that moment, she was holding the little wolf cub. Upon hearing the scream, Jiang Ruyun, who was by her side, couldn't help but ask, "Elder sister, could Zhao fucking be dead?" He obviously came prepared this time, and the people he brought with him should be the best from the Huainan King's mansion. So he won't die, Jiang Peihuan replied. However, she wasn't certain about the extent of his injuries. However, she would not die. Whether she would be injured or not was not something she could predict. Eldest miss? A voice from Yi Xiao came from outside the tent. Jiang Peihuan calmly responded, "Come in." Upon hearing her voice, Yi Xiao lifted the curtain and entered the tent. After bowing to Jiang Peihuan, she whispered, Prince Huainan was attacked by a bear and had his leg bitten off. People from the Huainan King's mansion, having heard that King Cheng and the eldest miss are here, have specifically come to request medical assistance for Prince Huainan. Tell them to get out. The words were from Xiao Nani. Walking into the tent with a cold demeanor, Xiao Nani saw the wolf cub in Jiang Paihuan's arms, reached out, and grabbed it by the neck, handing it to Lu Er. Lu Er, who was standing to the side, quickly caught the cub, fearing it would die from the fall. Sitting beside Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nani turned to Yi Xiao and said, "Tell them it's my order, they should leave." Hearing this, Yi Xiao's eyes revealed a hint of hesitation. After a moment's thought, she hesitated. "I took a look at Prince Huainan, and his condition seems very critical. If he isn't treated soon, his life could be in danger. In that case, let's go and take a look." Jiang Peihuan didn't care about the extent of Zhao fucking's injuries. However, if he were dead, even with Xiao Nani present, there wouldn't be any real trouble, but it would still lead to some unnecessary complications. After some thought, Jiang Peihuan decided to check on him. Xiao Nani said nothing but followed her out of the tent. Soon after, Zhao fucking was carried down from a carriage. His leg had been bitten off from the thigh down. His face was covered in sweat and full of horror, completely pale. "Yi Xiao, take his pulse," Jiang Peihuan instructed, not wanting to touch Zhao fucking herself. Upon her command, Yi Xiao stepped forward and checked Zhao fucking's pulse. After a moment, she reported to Jiang Peihuan, "His pulse is very weak, and there's no pulse in his heart. Then give him a heart protection pill." Understood. Yi Xiao took out a porcelain bottle from her bag and threw it to one of the people next to Zhao fucking. "This is the heart protection pill. After feeding it to your young master, quickly send back to the capital for treatment." "Thank you, eldest Mississippi." The person attending to Zhao fucking wasn't just anyone. It was Zhao Yong, the chief steward of the Huainan King's mansion. Chapter 206. The unforeseen event in Huainan Mansion. Zhao Yong was dressed in black. From a distance, Jiang Peihuan hadn't noticed, but as he approached, she detected the strong scent of blood on him. Moreover, Zhao Yong's face was extremely pale. After some thought, Jiang Peihuan tossed him a bottle of medicine. Seeing that Jin Peihuan had given him another bottle of medicine, Zhao Yong looked somewhat puzzled. Before he could question, Jiang Peihuan quickly said, It's to stop the bleeding. Upon hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, a look of surprise flashed in Zhao Yong's eyes, followed by a complex emotion. However, he didn't say anything and simply bowed to Jiang Peihuan before leaving with Zhao fucking. Eldest sister, are we going back to the mansion? We rarely come here, so let's stay for a few days. As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan turned to look at Xiao Nani beside her. Seeing her gaze, the man directly responded, whatever Huaner wishes. Thus, after Zhao fucking's departure, Jiang Peihuan and the others stayed in West Mountain. Inside the capital city, Huainan King's mansion. Qing'er? What happened? Chu Rou almost fainted when she saw Zhong fucking covered in blood. She turned and stared fiercely at Zhao Yong. Zhao Yong stepped forward, bowing to Chu Rou before quietly saying, Your Highness, the prince encountered a brown bear in West Mountain. His leg was bitten off. What did you say? Chu Rou had not noticed anything wrong with Zhao fucking, who was covered with a black blanket. But upon hearing Zhao Yong's words, she tremblingly pulled back the blanket. Seeing Zhao fucking's missing foot, her vision darkened, and she fainted. Queen Huainan, Nanny Wei saw Chu Rou fall and quickly went forward to support her. She then yelled at a maid nearby, What are you waiting for? Go fetch the doctor.
Yes.
The maid, startled by the scene, ran out upon hearing Nanny Wei's command. The entire Huainan mansion was in chaos. Zhao Yong looked at the servant and whispered, Where's His Highness? Has he arrived? I've already sent someone to wait at the palace gates. As soon as His Highness comes out, he will be informed. Hearing this, Zhao Yong nodded. Chief Butler Zhao Yong, the doctor is here.
Quick, let him treat the prince.
While the doctor examined Zhao fucking, Zhao Yong stayed close. After the examination, Zhao Yong asked softly, How is Prince? His life is not in danger. But what? The doctor glanced at Zhao fucking's leg and whispered, From now on, the prince will have a handicap. Although the doctor was being tactful, but everyone in the room understood what the doctor meant. He meant that Zhong fucking would be a disabled. Do you mean that my son will be a cripple from now on? Ah, just as Zhao Yong was about to speak, Chu Rou, the queen of Huainan, rushed in. She glared at the doctor with anger in her eyes and spoke coldly. Seeing the expression in Chu Ran's eyes, the doctor was shocked. However, he was just a doctor, not a god. He could only tell the truth. After bowing to Chu Rou, the doctor said in a trembling voice, Forgive me, Your Highness, but the young prince's leg has been bitten off. Even the mightiest god cannot. Shut up. Do you believe that one will kill you? You quack. Before the doctor could finish, Chu Rou shouted at him. Then, she turned to the guards and ordered, Kill this useless doctor. Hearing Chu Ran's words, the doctor's face turned pale. Zhao Yong, having witnessed the scene, stepped forward. Your Highness, this isn't the doctor's fault. Please spare him. He, slap. Before Zhao Yong could finish, Chu Rou slapped him hard on the face. Glaring at him, Chu Ran's eyes were dark as she said, If it's not his fault, then it's yours. A servant like you failed to protect your master. You deserve to die too. As she spoke, Chu Rou looked at the guard at the side and said coldly, Kill this damned person as well. However, none of the guards from the Huainan mansion dared to step forward. Zhao Yong had always been a favorite of the King Huainan. Although Chu Rou was the queen of the Huainan mansion, the guards were loyal to the king. So, no one took action. Seeing this, Chu Rou, already in a foul mood, looked even more displeased. She shouted at the guards, You dog slaves, do you not understand human language? What are you yelling about? A deep voice echoed from the entrance. Everyone knelt down and greeted, Your Highness. Zhao Yang entered the hall. Looking at the hysterical Chu Rou, he said coldly, Look at yourself. Do you look like a queen? Qing'er is missing a leg and could be dead. How can one care about anything now? He brought this on himself. Who else is there to blame? Chu Rou was stunned when she heard Zhao Yang's words. She stared at Zhao Yang in disbelief. If she wasn't certain that her hearing was perfect, she'd have doubted her ears. She gazed at Zhao Yang in shock, whispering, Your Highness, what do you mean by that? Qing'er is your own son. He dared to scheme against the Jiang family on West Mountain and was bested. Who is there to blame? And since you mentioned that Qing is my son, there's something else one should tell you. Hearing this, Chu suddenly had a bad feeling. She looked up at Zhao Yang, eyes wide in anticipation. However, Zhao Yang did not look at her. Instead, he looked at Zhao Yang. Yong is also my biological son. What did you say? Zhao Yang's voice was soft, but Chu heard him clearly. She looked between Zhao Yang and Zhao Jiang. It was then that she noticed the uncanny resemblance between them. Chu Ran's face turned ashen. She pointed at Zhao Yang, her fingers trembling. You heartless man. Have you forgotten what you promised my father and mother? You said you'd take care of me. You said you'd never take another concubine. Now, you say this bastard is your son. Zhao Yang, have you been fair to me, to my parents? Faced with Chu Ran's repeated accusations, Zhao Yang's expression remained unchanged. If one looked closely, there was a hint of disgust and anger. Looking at Chu, Zhao Yang said coldly, It's because I promised your father that all these years one haven't been with another woman, but Yong is the child of Lien Er. Hearing this name, Chu collapsed into a chair nearby. Chapter 207. The new prince of Huainan. She stared at Zhao Yang with her eyes wide open. She couldn't believe her eyes. This is impossible. Wasn't the child in her belly already aborted? As if she remembered something, she looked at Zhao Yang with a mocking gaze, laughing and crying. It was you. You switched the bowl of medicine. Zhao Yang remained silent, looking at Chu with dark eyes. Chu was also born in the royal family. Initially, it was the Huanan King's mansion that actively sought to marry her. At that time, the Huanan King's mansion was on the verge of decline. In order to secure their status, Zhao Yang agreed to a series of unequal demands from the Chu family. One of them was that, other than Chu, he should not take in any concubines. The second was to send away Lien Er, the servant girl who had served him since he was young. At that time, Lien Er was already pregnant, but in order to marry Chu, Zhao Yang still agreed to send Lien Er away and abort the child in her stomach. Upon understanding all of this, Chu Ran's eyes were filled with hatred. Looking at Zhao Yang, she scoffed. If this bastard is still alive, that wretched woman must still be alive too. Chu, today I might as well tell you directly that not only will I reveal Yong Er's identity, but I will also bring Lien Er into the mansion. From today onwards, Yong Er will be the heir of the Huainan mansion, in your dreams. Hearing Zhao Yang's words, Chu Ran's eyes were fierce, and she yelled loudly. Looking at Zhao Yang, Chu said with hatred, Even though my father and mother are dead, the Chu family still exists. You want to deceive me. Brother-in-law has already agreed. Queen, this time, Chu really fainted. Nanny Wei held onto Chu, her eyes filled with fear. However, Zhao Yang didn't even look at Chu. Instead, he looked at Zhao Yang. Yong Er, from now on you will be the heir of Huainan Mansion. Do not disappoint me. Thank you, father. Zhang Peihuan was in West Mountain, unaware of what was happening in the capital. After staying in West Mountain for 3 days, Zhang Peihuan returned with Xiao Nani. Just as she entered the general's mansion, she heard that the heir of Huainan Mansion had arrived. Hearing this, Zhang Peihuan's eyes were dark, and even Zhang Ruyan's eyes showed a touch of gloom. But seeing the person who walked in, both Zhang Peihuan and Zhang Ruyan were surprised. Greetings to King Cheng. Zhao Yong walked forward and bowed to Xiao Nani. So you're the new heir to Huainan Mansion? Looking at Zhao Yong, who was bowing to him, Xiao Nani said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Zhao Yong was silent for a moment, then nodded. Yes, Zhang Peihuan felt that her mind was in a mess. Zhao Yong's matter had never happened in her previous life. She looked at Zhao Yong. At this moment, he was no longer the steward of Huainan Mansion, but was dressed in a brocade dress. When Zhang Peihuan looked at Zhao Yong also looked back at her. He walked forward and bowed solemnly. Thank you, eldest miss, for your help in West Mountain a few days ago. There's no need for such formality, Prince. It was a small matter for me, so please don't dwell on it. Zhang Peihuan did not like the people of the Huainan Mansion. Although she didn't hate Zhao Yong, it was just neutrality. If there's nothing else, you may leave. I still have something to discuss with Miss Jiang. Seeing that Zhao Yong was standing there with no intention of leaving, Xiao Nani spoke directly. Hearing this, Zhao Yong's face stiffened a little, but when he thought of his purpose for coming here, he still walked up to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing his movement, Xiao Nani's expression turned cold, and he stood in front of Jiang Peihuan. What do you want? Seeing Xiao Nani's action, Zhao Yong quickly responded, King Cheng, please don't misunderstand. One just wanted to ask eldest miss for a favor. As he said this, Zhao Yong looked at Jiang Peihuan. You've got the wrong person. Before Jiang Peihuan could speak, Xiao Nani responded directly. Even when confronted with Xiao Nani's cold face, Zhao Yong didn't step back. He persisted in looking at Jiang Peihuan, continuing, Eldest miss, only you can help me with this. I beg you to save my mother. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with surprise and confusion. Seeing her silence, Zhao Yong earnestly said, Eldest miss, as long as you save my mother. If you ever have any requests in the future, I, Zhao Yong, will never refuse. A hint of conflict appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She didn't want to have anything to do with the people of Huainan Mansion, but when she was learning medicine, the divine doctor who taught her said that a doctor must have a compassionate heart. Eldest miss, I beg you. As Jiang Peihuan hesitated, Zhao Yong directly knelt before her. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. What are you doing? Xiao Nani, who was by her side, scoffed coldly. Does the Prince Huainan intend to coerce Huan heir? I dare not. One just, forget it. I can see your mother. But one don't guarantee a cure. Eldest miss, don't worry. I won't trouble you further. Hearing the first part of Jiang Peihuan's statement, joy flashed in Zhao Yong's eyes. Even after hearing the latter part, he didn't show disappointment but sincerely promised. Go and inform grandmother and mother. Looking at Lu Er beside her, Jiang Peihuan said in a soft voice. Once Lu Er left, Jiang Peihuan said to Zhao Yong, Let's go. There's no need. You can lead the way. When they reached the general's mansion's entrance, Zhao Yong signaled Jiang Peihuan to enter the carriage. However, Xiao Nani, who was beside Jiang Peihuan, interrupted and lifted the curtain of his own carriage. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything and entered Xiao Nani's carriage. As the carriage moved, Jiang Peihuan turned to the man beside her. Do you think him too soft-hearted? Huan heir, you've always been the kindest person. If it had been anyone other than Xiao Nani saying this, Jiang Peihuan would have assumed it was sarcasm. But the sincerity in Xiao Nani's eyes was unmistakable. Seeing the expression in his eyes, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps only you would think that way. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani softly said, No matter when or where, in my heart, Huan heir, you're always the best. Do whatever you wish, they'll support you in everything. While Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani were talking, the carriage stopped. When Jiang Peihuan stepped off the carriage, she noticed that Zhao Yong had taken them to a small house outside the city. Zhao Yong knocked on the door. Shortly after, a young maid opened it. Upon seeing Zhao Yong, she quickly bowed in respect. Greetings, Your Highness, Prince Zhao. She then added, Greetings to Your Highness King Chun and eldest Miss Jiang. Jiang Peihuan was mildly surprised that the young maid addressed her correctly, but chose to remain silent. Where's my mother? Zhao Yong inquired. Madam is still resting, the maid replied. Acknowledging this, Zhao Yong nodded and then gestured for Jiang Peihuan to enter, saying, Eldest miss, after you. Chapter 208. Half of your own liver. Jiang Peihuan followed Zhao Yong into a courtyard of the main house. Just as she entered, Jiang Peihuan heard a coughing sound. From the sound alone, she knew that the person was in poor health. Xiao Nani, unwilling to enter the room, sat directly on a stone bench in the courtyard. He then looked at Jiang Peihuan and said, They'll wait for you here. All right. Nodding, Jiang Peihuan headed towards the room. Zhao Yong bowed to Xiao Nani and followed behind. After Zhao Yong pushed the door open, Jiang Peihuan followed him in. Inside the room, Jiang Peihuan saw a woman lying on a bed, appearing frail. Considering Zhao Yong's current status, Zhang Peihuan had assumed his mother would be of outstanding beauty, but as she approached, she found the woman not only ordinary-looking but also showing signs of aging. "Greetings, eldest Mississippi." Seeing Zhang Peihuan enter, Zhao Lian tried to get out of bed to bow. Zhang Peihuan said immediately, "Madam, you're unwell? No need for formalities." Although she did not like the Huainan mansion, since Zhang Peihuan had come, she treated Zhao Lian like any other patient. Jin Peihuan sat down on the stool beside the bed and reached out to check Zhao Lian's pulse. After carefully checking Zhao Lian's pulse, Zhang Peihuan could not help but frown. Although she had guessed from the cough she heard outside that Zhao Lian's condition wasn't good, after checking her pulse, Zhang Peihuan found it was even more serious than she had thought. Yet, looking at Zhao Lian, she said softly, "Madam, you need to relax and not overthink." Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Zhao Lian was stunned for a moment. Then, she looked at Zhang Peihuan with a complicated expression and said, "I understand what you mean, eldest Mississippi." Zhang Peihuan nodded and left the room without saying anything. "Mother, please rest well," Zhao Yong said to Zhao Lian before following Zhang Peihuan out. When they reached the courtyard, he turned to her. Before he could say anything, Zhang Peihuan spoke, "Your mother's condition is very critical. These years, her heart has been burdened, and she had a serious injury in the past that wasn't properly treated. Eldest miss, is there a way you can treat my mother?" "There is a way, but even if it is cured, your mother can only live for another 2 years at most. Do you want to try?" "How long can my mother live without treatment?" 3 months at most," Zhang Peihuan said directly. When Zhao Yong heard this, his face turned pale. After a moment of silence, Zhao Yong earnestly said, "One beg you to treat my mother. To treat her, you need to prepare 3 things." "Which 3? I'll get them right away." "Listen to me first. Each of these 3 items is extremely rare. The first item is the blood from the heart of the nine-tailed fox. Most of the nine-tailed fox lived in swamps and were extremely rare. Furthermore, the nine-tailed fox was very intelligent and cunning. Even if you saw it, it would be very difficult to catch it. When capturing the nine-spirit fox, you cannot kill it with an arrow. Once the nine-tailed fox died, the blood would be useless. Second is the gallbladder of a black snake. Black snakes are easier to find in deep mountains, but they are highly venomous, so capturing one requires great caution. She paused when she got to the last item, prompting Zhao Yong to ask, "What's the third item, eldest miss?" This third item is the rarest of the 3. Meeting Zhao Yong's gaze, Zhang Peihuan whispered, "Half of your own liver." On hearing this, Zhao Yong's eyes widened. But after a brief silence, he said decisively, "Don't worry, Mississippi One will bring you all 3 items. When you get the nine-tailed fox's heart blood and the black snake's gallbladder, come find me. As for your liver, I must extract it myself." "Understood. Prince Huainan, do you realize that with half of your liver missing, your body won't function as a normal person's would, and it might even reduce your lifespan?" "It doesn't matter. As long as one can save my mother, it's not just half of my liver. Even if you wanted my life, one wouldn't hesitate." Zhao Yong's expression was as indifferent as always, but at this moment, Zhang Peihuan's opinion of him changed slightly. "If that's the case, then you should hurry and gather the ingredients. You have at most 1 month." Having said that, Zhang Peihuan walked straight towards Xiao Nani. The man had already risen to his feet when he saw her approaching. Upon boarding the carriage, Han Feng couldn't help but mutter, "This new heir of Prince Huainan is much more decent than the previous one." Both Zhang Peihuan and Xiao Nani remained silent as the carriage went straight to the general's mansion. It was almost dark by now. Zhang Peihuan, along with Xiao Nani, went directly to the chrysanthemum hall. "Grandmother, old Madame Zhang." As Zhang Peihuan paid her respects to the old madam, Xiao Nani also gave a polite bow. Seeing the two standing before her, old Madame Zhang's eyes were filled with smiles. "Your Highness, there's no need for formalities. Please sit." Once Xiao Nani had seated himself, the old madam took Zhang Peihuan's hand, letting her sit by her side. "Did you have a good time on the West Mountain?" "Yes, very much." "That's good to hear." For a long time, Zhang Peihuan had always been calm and composed, losing some of the liveliness of a young girl. Therefore, the old madam always hoped that she would go out more often. Seeing the concern in her grandmother's eyes, Zhang Peihuan softly said, "Grandmother, on my trip to the West Mountain, I personally hunted some furs for you. Winter is approaching. I'll ask the seamstress to use these furs to make some cloaks for you." "That's wonderful. One will arrange for it to be done." "Huan Heir, when you went hunting in the West Mountain with King Cheng, why didn't you invite me?" "That's not very kind of you." Xueqi walked into the main hall with a smile. After bowing to old Madame Jiang, he looked at Zhang Peihuan with dissatisfaction. Hearing him, Zhang Peihuan responded, "Cousin Qi, you spend all day with my elder brother in the military camp. How could I possibly find you? But why did you return home today?" Xueqi, who had been staying in the general's mansion for a while, felt very much at ease. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's question, he replied with a smile, "I received a letter from my father yesterday. It said that my grandmother and my mother are coming to the capital." "My maternal grandmother and my aunts are coming?"
Yes.
"You'll be getting married in just over a month. However, this year's winter seems to be arriving earlier than usual. Your maternal grandmother was concerned about the snow hindering their travel and possibly missing your wedding, so they decided to come to the capital earlier." "That's good. Your maternal grandmother's concerns are valid. Once they arrive, we'll arrange for them to stay in the mansion." Upon hearing Xueqi's voice, old Madame Jiang said with a smile. Chapter 209. The Xue family is coming. The old madam has good intentions. However, as a younger generation, one dare not agree to this matter on my own. We'll have to wait for my grandmother to come back and make a decision. Xueqi bowed to old Madame Jiang and said with a smile. Over time, Madame Jiang had grown quite fond of Xueqi. Now, hearing his words, the smile in her eyes deepened even more. Looking at Xueqi, she replied with a smile, "In that case, 111 talk to your grandmother in person."
Yes.
"When old Madame Xue comes to the capital, send someone to Cheng Mansion. They'll join you to welcome her." At this moment, Xiao Nani, sitting next to Zhang Peihuan, whispered something to her. Though Xiao Nani spoke softly, everyone in the hall could hear him. Hearing the man's words, Jian Peihuan's eyes were a little surprised. She looked at the man and asked softly, "You're going too?" "Of course. The old madam, at her age, is coming all the way to the capital to attend our wedding. As a junior, it's only right for me to visit her." He seemed quite candid. Hearing his words, both Madame Jiang and Xueqi looked pleased. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan nodded. "All right, they'll have you shall notify you." "Old madam, dinner is ready." Nanny Su walked up to the old madam and said softly. Upon hearing her voice, old Madame Jiang looked to the group. "You can all have your meal here today. Then I'll have to trouble old madam." Although Xiao Nani was always very gentle to old Madame Jiang, she did not neglect him. Most of the dishes on the table were Xiao Nanye's favorite dishes. Once seated, Xiao Nanye said, "Thank you for the effort. Old madam, your highness, you're treating me like an outsider. In just over a month, you'll be marrying Huan Heir. From then on, we'll be family. There's no need for such politeness."
Yes.
Knowing the close relationship between Zhang Peihuan and old Madame Jiang, Xiao Nani always showed great respect to old Madame Jiang. Given her age, the old madam could easily become tired. After dinner, Zhang Peihuan left with Xiao Nani. Xueqi, on the other hand, went to Jiang Shangbai's courtyard. "It's getting late. Aren't you going back to your mansion?" After leaving the chrysanthemum hall, Xiao Nani followed Zhang Peihuan. She glanced at him and said softly. Hearing her, he replied softly, "I'll escort you to Plum Garden and then return to my mansion." "Okay." Hearing this, Zhang Peihuan nodded and said nothing more. The two of them walked towards the Plum Garden together. Yi Xiao and Han Feng trailed a few steps behind. On their way, neither spoke a word. Yet, whether it was Xiao Nani or Zhang Peihuan, their expressions were gentle, without any sign of discomfort. Once they reached Plum Garden entrance, Zhang Peihuan paused and turned to Xiao Nani. "It's late, and you must be tired from the past few days. Rest well." "All right." Upon hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, the man responded softly. Zhang Peihuan glanced at the man and turned to walk towards the courtyard. At that moment, her wrist was suddenly grasped by the man. Subconsciously turning her head to look at him, before she could react, she felt a chill on her wrist. Lowering her head, Zhang Peihuan subconsciously looked at her wrist. On it was a black wooden bracelet, but that wasn't the main point. The key was that the bracelet had a tooth on it. Zhang Peihuan observed it for a long time before recognizing the tooth as resembling that of a wolf. Lifting her gaze to the man beside her, Zhang Peihuan softly said, "Is this the tooth of the West Mountain alpha wolf?"
Yes.
Gently rotating the wooden bracelet on Zhang Peihuan's wrist, Xiaonani responded in a low voice. Zhang Peihuan's skin was flawless and fair, making the black wooden bracelet on her wrist stand out even more, highlighting her fairness. Looking down at Zhang Peihuan, Xiaonani softly said, "Wolf teeth ward off evil. Though this wood isn't as valuable as gold or jade, it represents my feelings. I hope you like it. Eldest miss, let me tell you, this bracelet was handcrafted by the master himself. Among all the bracelets, only this one satisfied him. Why do you talk so much?" Han Feng, who was standing by and saw that Zhang Peihuan remained silent, worried that she didn't like the bracelet and felt it was a waste of their master's effort. He rushed forward to speak, but was cut off by Xiaonan's icy glare. Meeting Xiaonan's gaze, Han Feng silently closed his mouth. Yet, Zhang Peihuan's eyes revealed a hint of a smile. Looking at Han Feng, she chuckled and said, "Don't worry, one understand his intentions." Hearing this, Han Feng grinned. Then Zhang Peihuan turned to the man beside her and earnestly said, "One really like this bracelet." As she spoke, her eyes were full of joy. Seeing her smile, the man couldn't help but smile back, softly saying, "As long as you like it, it'll go in now." Seeing the man nod, Zhang Peihuan lifted her skirt to walk into the courtyard, but the man grasped her wrist once again. Seeing his hand on her wrist, Zhang Peihuan chuckled, "Do you have something else for me?" Somehow, Zhang Peihuan's way of addressing Xiaonani had become very casual, and she no longer used formal titles. Zhang Peihuan's words were playful, but upon hearing them, Xiaonani nodded earnestly. Under Zhang Peihuan's gaze, Xiaonani handed her a ring. Besides the previous ruby ring, this was the second ring Xiaonani gave her. The ring had a pearl face, a soft pink pearl set on it, looking very gentle. But when Xiaonani pressed the pearl with his fingertip, a fine needle sprang out. Though the needle was tiny, from Zhang Peihuan's perspective, she could see its cold shimmer. With the needle retracted, Xiaonani said, "One noticed you no longer wear the previous ring, so I had this one made for you." As he spoke, he handed the ring to Zhang Peihuan. Without saying anything, she took the ring and wore it in front of Xiaonani. The pink pearl made her fingertip look even more luminous. Looking at the ring on her finger and the bracelet on her wrist, Zhang Peihuan smiled at the man beside her. "Do you have anything else for me?"
There's nothing else.
Seeing the man shake his head, the smile in Zhang Peihuan's eyes became even warmer. Chapter 210. Gift, rest early. I'll head back to the mansion first. Having said that, Xiaonani prepared to leave. However, Zhang Peihuan's voice echoed behind him. "You prepared a gift for me. In return, I have also prepared a gift for you." "What gift?" "Wait a moment." With that, Zhang Peihuan walked into the courtyard. Moments later, Xiaonani saw her return with a cloak in her hands. The entire cloak was crafted from snow-white fur. Zhang Peihuan had made it using rabbit fur she had collected in the West Mountains. Initially, Zhang Peihuan wanted to find high-quality pelts to craft a cloak for Xiaonani. But after injuring her hand, she couldn't hunt any longer. So, she used the fur from the rabbits she personally hunted to sew the cloak. "Winter might come early this year. I had planned to give it to you when it gets colder, but I'll give it to you now." Hearing this, Xiaonani didn't respond verbally. Instead, he reached out, took the cloak from her hands, and put it on. To the astonishment of those present, Xiaonani wore the snow-white cloak. While white could appear bulky, Xiaonan's tall and slender physique made him look even more noble with it. Turning to Jiang Peihuan with a smile, Xiaonani asked, "How is it?" Jin Peihuan carefully looked at the man's cloak. Seeing that the size and length were very suitable, she nodded. "It fits perfectly. Master, if we don't leave soon, the sky will turn dark." Just as Xiaonani was reveling in the moment, a voice broke the mood. Glancing coldly at Han Feng, Xiaonani spoke softly to Jiang Peihuan. "I really like this cloak. They'll head back to the mansion now. Rest early."
Yes.
This time, Jiang Peihuan truly went back to her room. Xiaonani watched her figure disappear into the doorway. Xiaonani turned around and left. Seeing this, Han Feng quickly followed. Perhaps it was because he was used to climbing over the wall. Even though Xiaonani entered through the main door, he didn't seem inclined to exit the same way. Instead, he climbed over the back wall. The guards of the mansion were already accustomed to Xiaonani's antics. Seeing him and his servant climb the wall, they acted as if they saw nothing. Xiaonani sat on Jue Yun's back while Han Feng followed beside him. Noticing the white cloak on Xiaonani in contrast to his own thin clothing, Han Feng felt a pang of envy. "Keep staring, and 111 gouge out your eyes. Master, do you think one should find a wife too?" Hearing this, Xiaonani turned to look at his secret guard. After a long stare, Xiaonani responded coldly, "Who would want you?" Chapter 211. Leaving the mansion for a tour, get up. Seeing Yu Er bowing to him, Xiaonani spoke softly. Seeing Xiaonani heading towards the room, Yu Er hurriedly said, "Your Highness, the eldest miss just got out of bed. Perhaps you could wait in the main hall for a moment." "It's fine. Don't mind me." By the time he spoke, Xiaonani had already entered the room. At that moment, Jiang Peihuan had just risen from bed. Her long black hair draped casually behind her. Dressed in blue, she looked up to see the man, and a smile filled his eyes. "If my elder brother sees this, he would surely kick you out." Seeing the man comfortably sitting by the table, Jiang Peihuan said with a laugh. Hearing her words, a smile also crept into Xiaonani's eyes. After pouring himself a cup of hot tea, he whispered, "The young general is at the camp right now. He surely doesn't know. Changbai is in the camp, but I am still in the mansion." As Xiaonani's voice fell, Xueqi walked into Jiang Peihuan's room. "Cousin Qi, why are you here?" Seeing Xueqi naturally sitting at the table, Jiang Peihuan laughed. Xueqi did not look at Jiang Peihuan but said to Yu Er, "Quickly help your young miss get dressed. We'll take you all out later." "Eldest miss, let's go wash up first." After glancing at Xiaonani, Jiang Peihuan turned and went behind the screen. Only then did Xueqi turn to look at Xiaonani, his smile vanishing instantly to be replaced by anger. "King Cheng, even though you and Huan Er are soon to be married, technically you're not married yet. Isn't it inappropriate for you to come to her room this early? Then why did General Xue come here then?" "Me." Hearing Xiaonani's words, Xueqi pointed at himself, saying irritably, "It's not the same. Huan Er and one are like siblings. But she and I are officially engaged." Xueqi was speechless. "Eldest miss, how about wearing this white cloak today? Just wear this one." When Yu Er opened the cabinet, Xiaonani looked at them and said. Hearing Xiaonani's voice, Jiang Peihuan and Yu Er looked at him. Facing their expressions, Xiaonani directly opened the wooden box on the table. When the box was opened, a fiery red gaze entered everyone's eyes. Xiaonani reached in and took out the fiery red cloak. This is made of firefox fur. Having grown up in Qingzhou, Xueqi was very familiar with animal fur. He recognized the source at a glance. This firefox is extremely rare. Where did you find an entire cloak? Xiaonani did not answer Xueqi's question. Instead, he unfolded the cloak in his hand and draped it over Jiang Peihuan. Yu Er saw this and quickly went forward, but she was stopped by Xiaonani. "It's all right. They'll do it." As he spoke, he carefully adjusted the hem of the cloak for Jiang Peihuan, then fastened it at her neck. "Eldest miss, this cloak looks great." Yu Er, watching from the side, commented with a smile. Xiaonani took Jiang Peihuan's hand and led her to a mirror. "Look, do you like it?" Following his direction, Jin Peihuan looked at the mirror. The person in the mirror had a smile on her face, the fiery red fur making her face blossom like a peach. Hearing the voice by her ear, Jiang Peihuan nodded lightly. Suddenly, Xue Qi drew his sword, pointing it at Jiang Peihuan's bed. "What's this?" Seeing his action in the mirror, Jiang Peihuan exclaimed, "Cousin Qi, please stop." It turned out that a creature named Xiaobai, sensing various scents, had run out from under the bed. Xue Qi had recognized it as a wolf and drew his sword immediately. Seeing Jin Peihuan holding Xiaobai in her arms, Xue Qi smirked. "Huan Er, is this little wolf cub yours?" As he spoke, Xue Qi sheathed his sword. But Xiaobai showed his teeth at Xue Qi. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan gently tapped Xiaobai's head. "Don't be rude." Hearing her words, Xiaobai turned his back to Xue Qi, showing off his rear end. Seeing this, Xue Qi raised an eyebrow. "Handing Xiaobai to you, heir," Jiang Peihuan laughed and said to Xue Qi, "I brought him from the West Mountain for fun. This capital city is indeed full of wonders. Huan Er, with the snow this heavy, the city river must be frozen. Today, I'll take you to the river to go ice skating." "Sounds good." Seeing Xue Qi's enthusiasm, Jiang Peihuan agreed with a smile. After speaking, Jiang Peihuan turned to look at Xiao Nani. Before she could speak, the man softly said, 111 go with you. Then let's inform grandmother at the Chrysanthemum Hall. After having breakfast in Jiang Peihuan's courtyard, the three headed to the Chrysanthemum Hall. The old madam's courtyard was busy heating the floor. When Jiang Peihuan entered the old madam's room, it was already warm and cozy. Seeing Jiang Peihuan, the old madam's eyes brightened. "The fur you're wearing is quite rare. In addition to the one Huan Er is wearing, one have prepared several pieces of darker fur. Once the embroiderers finish them, they'll have them sent here for you," Xiao Nani softly replied. "Such high-quality fur is hard to come by. Your Highness, you should also keep some for yourself." Seeing the concern in the old madam's eyes, Xiao Nani's expression became even gentler. He walked forward and said softly, "Don't worry, there's plenty of these in the Chengwang mansion. Grandmother, one came to inform you that I, His Highness, and Cousin Qi are preparing to go to the moat to play. After the heavy snow last night, the city river must have frozen. It must also be quite lively. You should take Xue Qi to see. He's been here for so long and hasn't really explored the capital. Don't worry, old madam. When one come back, he'll definitely bring you some delicious food," Xue Qi said with a smile. Seeing his smile, the old madam nodded. "All right, then 111 wait for you all to return." After thinking for a while, old Madame Jiang looked at Xiao Nani and said softly, "If your Highness is free tonight, come to my place for dinner. With today's heavy snow, I've asked the kitchen to prepare a pot. Then he'll bother the old madam again tonight." "All right, it's getting late. You guys should leave." Urged by the old madam, Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nani, and Xue Qi headed to the city river. As soon as they reached the river, Jiang Peihuan heard lively laughter. Xue Qi, seeing the crowded ice, was very excited. He ran up and waved to Jiang Peihuan. "Huan Er, come quickly." Chapter 212. Going out to play. Upon hearing Xue Qi's voice, Jiang Peihuan lifted her skirt and took 2 steps forward. By this time, Xue Qi had already found a sleigh, a unique ice amusement in the Qi kingdom. It had a curved plate at the bottom with a chair mounted on it. When someone sat in the chair, another person in front could pull the sleigh. As Jiang Peihuan neared, Xue Qi patted the sleigh's seat, urging, "Huan Er, come and sit. They'll pull you." Observing her surroundings, Jiang Peihuan noted that despite it being the season's first snowfall, attracting many to the frozen city river sites, only a few were on sleighs, mainly children. Upon hearing Xue Qi's invitation, she replied with slight incredulity, "Cousin Qi, I'm not a child anymore. How can one sit on this sleigh? Why can't you?" Before she could react, Xue Qi quickly grasped Jiang Peihuan's wrist, settling her onto the seat. "Hold tight." Without hesitation, Xue Qi took the reins and started running, pulling the sleigh behind. Given his experience with ice sports in Qingzhou, His pace was strikingly swift. Seated on the sleigh, with the icy wind threading through her long hair and causing her red cloak to billow like flames, Zhang Peihuan instinctively clung to the handrails. From afar, Xiaonani watched, his eyes softening at the heartwarming spectacle. "How is it? Isn't it fun?" Xueqi called out as he glanced back at Zhang Peihuan. While she remained silent in response, her face broke into a subtly contented smile. In her younger days, military camp duties had occupied her, leaving little time for leisure. Later, due to health concerns, she seldom ventured outdoors, especially during the biting cold of winter. After running several laps pulling Zhang Peihuan, Xueqi was panting from exhaustion. Upon returning to Xiaonani, he set down the reins and remarked with a weary voice, "There are too few people on the ice, making it uneven. Pulling you was exhausting. You might want to eat less. You're rather heavy." Even though she knew Xueqi was joking, Zhang Peihuan still shot him a glare. "Cousin Qi, are you implying I'm fat? Once grandmother arrives in the capital, they'll surely complain to her about this. Please don't, I'm just joking with you." Hearing that Zhang Peihuan was going to complain, Xueqi hurriedly begged for mercy. Smiling, Zhang Peihuan looked out over the vast icy plain. "Gliding on this ice is quite enjoyable. Do you wish to see what lies beyond?" Xiaonani murmured, following her line of sight. Before she could reply, Xiaonani took the reins. "Let me lead you." "Xiaonani." A surprised Zhang Peihuan watched his sudden gesture. Without hesitation, he propelled them forward, causing the sleigh to glide swiftly. Xiaonani purposefully steered towards a less congested area. Observing their direction, Han Feng felt the urge to tail them, only to be halted by Xueqi, who chided, "Are you truly that naive? Why on earth would you follow them now? But one have to protect my master. You act as if you stand a chance against His Highness King Cheng." Xueqi interjected before Han Feng could finish. Soon, Xiaonani and Zhang Peihuan vanished from sight. Beyond the flat terrain, they encountered a long slope on the ice. Xiaonani shifted, standing protectively behind Zhang Peihuan as the sleigh began its rapid descent. "Xiaonani, look over there." As they sped downward, Zhang Peihuan spotted ice sculptures in the distance on the ice surface. Whoever had carved them had created numerous patterns, and from afar, it looked like a beautiful painting. Following her gaze, Xiaonani also noticed the ice sculptures. However, he quickly averted his eyes, turning them instead to Zhang Peihuan in front of him. Seeing the smile on her face, there was nothing but warmth in his eyes. As the two continued forward, people on the shore instinctively watched those on the ice. Among them were Xiao Juanhao and Lin Mingyao. Because of the first snow, Lin Mingyao specifically invited Xiao Juanhao out. Originally, Lin Mingyao was in a good mood. However, after witnessing the scene on the ice, the smile in her eyes instantly dimmed. After sliding down the slope, the sleigh could no longer move forward. At this point, Xiaonani got off the sleigh and stood in front, pulling Zhang Peihuan along. From time to time, he would ask Zhang Peihuan about the direction she wanted to go, and then follow the direction Zhang Peihuan pointed at. Witnessing this scene, Lin Mingyao struggled to maintain her smile, her hands clenched tightly. Throughout the capital, she was constantly compared to Zhang Peihuan. Since Lin Mingyao lacked prowess in martial arts, she took up the study of medicine, aiming to outshine Zhang Peihuan in this field. However, when Zhang Peihuan recently cured her of a particular poison, Lin Mingyao was confronted with the realization that her much-vaunted medical skills paled in comparison to Zhang Peihuan's. While Zhang Peihuan enjoyed the genuine affection of King Cheng, Lin Mingyao's fate was to be wed to Prince Qing as a mere side consort. In the grand scheme of things, a side consort was essentially a concubine. From a distance, she observed the scene on the ice. Xiaonani, the esteemed brother of the emperor, personally pulled the sleigh, all to bring joy to Zhang Peihuan. In that moment, Lin Mingyao was not alone in her swirl of emotions. Xiao Juanhao, standing beside her, shared her sentiments. Captured by the brilliant smile on Zhang Peihuan's face, Xiao Juanhao mused on how enchanting she appeared when she beamed. Yet, perplexingly, her expression always seemed to darken whenever her eyes met his. Your Highness, you're here too? At this moment, a melodious voice suddenly echoed in Xiao Junhao's ears. Turning his head, he saw Jiang Yin, accompanied by her maid, walking towards them. Dressed in white, Jiang Yin looked ethereal in this winter setting. Already possessing stunning looks and having made an extra effort in her appearance for the outing, she was truly a sight to behold. Xiao Junhao, being a normal man, couldn't help but smile a bit when he saw her, even though he didn't have feelings for her. After all, she was the main consort bestowed upon him by Emperor Qi Ming. Miss Jiang. Jiang Yin approached, and upon seeing Lin Mingyao next to Xiao Junhao, she remarked with a smile, Miss Lin is here too. Chapter 213. Drenched Socks and Shoes. Miss Jiang. Seeing her, Lin Mingyao couldn't hold back her smile anymore. She walked forward and bowed to Jiang Yin. Jiang Yin returned the greeting, but she quietly stood beside Xiao Junhao. Mingyao Lin bit her lip and walked to the side. Your Highness, I find this ice skating quite interesting. Why don't we go and have a try? Jiang Yin saw Xiao Nani and Zhang Peihuan on the ice and, thinking of something, she laughed and turned to Xiao Junhao. If Miss Jiang wishes, I will accompany you. Jiang Yin, although she made the suggestion, was prepared for Xiao Junhao to refuse. After all, she had heard about the relationship between Lin Mingyao and Xiao Junhao. But to Jiang Yin's surprise, Xiao Junhao agreed to her request. However, the ones who went down weren't just Jiang Yin and Xiao Junhao, because Lin Mingyao also joined them. Zhang Peihuan, who was having fun, suddenly heard a familiar and annoying voice. Imperial Uncle? Turning her head, Zhang Peihuan saw Xiao Junhao approaching. Although she deeply disliked this man, due to his royal status, Zhang Peihuan had no choice but to rise from her sleigh and bow to him. Xiao Nani looked at the group of people who had suddenly appeared, and his expression instantly turned cold. He looked coldly at Xiao Junhao and said, Why has the Prince Qing come here? Today is the first snow, and the city river must be very lively. As this is Miss Jiang's first visit to the capital, I wanted to show her around. Hearing this, Jiang Yan's eyes showed a hint of surprise, followed by derision. If she hadn't seen Lin Mingyao standing next to Xiao Junhao, she might have thought he had brought her out intentionally. However, this was her future husband. So, smiling, Jiang Yin turned to Zhang Peihuan. Miss Jiang, we meet again. Next, Jiang Yin greeted Xiao Nani. King Cheng? Regarding Jiang Yan's greeting, Xiao Nani merely glanced at her without saying a word. Huan Er, do you still want to continue playing? Turning to look at Zhang Peihuan, Xiao Nani's eyes were full of tenderness. Having played for a while and seeing Xiao Junhao, even the best scenery could not uplift Zhang Peihuan's mood. Hearing Xiao Nani's words, she softly said, Cousin Qi is waiting for us over there. Let's go find them. All right. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, the man nodded lightly. In front of these people, Zhang Peihuan naturally could not sit on the sleigh letting Xiao Junhao pull her. Moreover, the path ahead was uphill, so Zhang Peihuan stepped off the sleigh. Miss Jiang, you continue to play. I'll go first, Zhang Peihuan said in a soft voice as she walked to Jiang Yan's side. She then proceeded to follow Xiao Nani. However, as she passed by Xiao Junhao, Zhang Peihuan suddenly lost her footing. Be careful. Xiao Junhao, who was standing beside Zhang Peihuan, saw her fall into the ice water and subconsciously reached out his hand. Thanks to Xiao Junhao's quick reflexes, Zhang Peihuan was pulled to safety, though her shoes and socks were wet. That was fortunate. If not for Xiao Junhao's timely intervention, Zhang Peihuan might have fallen into the icy water. By this time, Xiao Nani had come over. Reaching out to hold Zhang Peihuan's hand, the man sized her up carefully. Huan Er, are you hurt? I'm fine. Seeing Zhang Peihuan shake her head, Xiao Nani squatted down, touched her wet shoes, and frowned. Your shoes and socks are wet. The bottom of Zhang Peihuan's feet were piercingly cold, but hearing Xiao Nani's words, she softly said, No problem. We'll change into a new pair in the carriage later. First, take off the wet shoes and socks. As he spoke, Xiao Nani had already helped Zhang Peihuan sit on the sleigh. Afterward, the man squatted down, turning his back to Xiao Juanhao and the others. Ignoring Jian Paihuan's attempts to stop him, Xiao Nani carefully took off her shoes and socks. There was a hint of embarrassment in Jiang Paihuan's eyes, but the scene that followed made her eyes reveal a bit of surprise. Xiao Nani removed his cloak and covered Jiang Peihuan with it, placing her feet inside. What's more, he took her feet in his hands. Jiang Peihuan instinctively tried to withdraw, but he tightened his grip. In just a moment, Jiang Peihuan's cold feet warmed up. Only after both of Jiang Peihuan's feet were warm did he release them, meticulously covering her with his cloak before bending down to pick up her shoes and socks. Without even looking at Xiao Juanhao and the others, Xiao Nani began pulling the sleigh's reins, moving forward. Though dressed in simple black attire, Jiang Peihuan's eyes brimmed with smiles as she looked at his retreating figure. Xiao Juanhao and the other two had different expressions on their faces as they watched them leave. At this moment, Jiang Yin remarked lightly, "How did the ice crack all of a sudden?" While speaking, her gaze landed directly on Lin Mingyao. Meeting Jiang Yan's gaze, Lin Mingyao responded with a smile. After all, it's only the first day. It's normal for the ice to be unstable. However, Lin Mingyao's hand slipped into her cloak. Seeing her movement, Jiang Yin simply smiled and said nothing more. Xiao Juanhao only withdrew his hand when Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani disappeared from his sight. "Don't move." Upon reaching the shore, Jiang Peihuan prepared to stand up. Just as she was about to, she heard Xiao Nanya's voice. Immediately, he reached out, lifting Jiang Peihuan into his arms horizontally. "Huan Er, what happened? Are you hurt?" Xueqi, who had been playing with Han Feng, rushed over after seeing this. He ran so quickly that he almost tripped. Seeing the worry in Xueqi's eyes, Jiang Peihuan whispered, "I'm fine. I just accidentally got my shoes and socks wet. Do we have a spare pair of shoes and socks in the carriage?" By this time, Xiao Nani, still holding Jiang Peihuan, had reached the carriage and directed his question to Yi Xiao.
Yes.
Hearing Yi Xiao's response, Xiao Nani, carrying Jiang Peihuan, entered the carriage. Yi Xiao had already taken out Jiang Peihuan's shoes and socks from a drawer in the carriage. As she was about to approach, Xiao Nani took them from her and said, "You can go out first." Hearing Xiao Nanya's voice, Yi Xiao paused in surprise. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan didn't protest, she exited the carriage. Soon, only Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan were left inside. Seeing him come over with the shoes and socks, Jiang Peihuan quickly extended her hand. "One can do it myself." However, after only a few steps, Jiang Yan's voice stopped her. "That ice hole earlier, it was your doing, wasn't it?" Jiang Yan's tone was one of certainty. Upon hearing this, surprise filled Lin Mingyao's eyes. But when she turned around, her face was filled with confusion. Looking at Jiang Yan, she smiled and said, "I don't understand what Miss Jiang is referring to. Miss Lin, although you acted swiftly, I believe the scent of the medicine still lingers on your fingertips." Upon hearing this, Lin Mingyao's expression changed. Facing Jiang Yan, Lin Mingyao directly spoke up. "Miss Jiang, are you trying to threaten me with this?" "No, it's not a threat, it's a warning." Meeting Lin Mingyao's puzzled look, a faint smile curled up at the corner of Jiang Yan's mouth. "Miss Lin, one know the Emperor has decreed me to be the main consort of Prince Qing. I'm aware that this angers you. But what's done is done, so you just have to accept it. Considering we will both be members of the Qing mansion in the future, I just want to remind you, crossing Miss Jiang is not in your best interest. If you're the only one who ends up unlucky, I wouldn't care. But one don't want my future to be jeopardized because of you. Otherwise, one can't promise one won't take action." By the end of her sentence, Jiang Yan's gaze towards Lin Mingyao was an unmistakable threat. However, Lin Mingyao just laughed lightly. "Miss Jiang, you must have noticed. The prince seems to have special feelings for Miss Peihuan. So what if he does?" As soon as Lin Mingyao finished her sentence, Jiang Yan responded indifferently. However, upon hearing Jiang Yan's reply, Lin Mingyao was stunned. Facing her puzzled expression, Jiang Yan continued, Do you really think that one will fall in love with the Prince Qing just because I marry into the Qing mansion? Miss Lin, I think you're a smart person. You should know that feelings are the most useless thing. I have never entered the Qing mansion for love. After saying this, Jiang Yin left the city river with her servant girls. Lin Mingyao watched her leave with a complicated look in her eyes. Jin Peihuan was completely unaware of what had happened at the city river. Xiao Nanye's carriage went straight to the general's mansion, and then they went to the Chrysanthemum Hall. Because they had already agreed to have dinner in the old madam's courtyard, the old madam had been waiting for them in the main hall. The room was warm with the charcoal burning. Seeing Jiang Peihuan enter, the old madam smiled and asked, "Is it still lively outside?" "Very lively. When the weather gets better, I will accompany you outside. In this cold weather, I'd rather stay in. Once you marry into the Chung mansion, you won't be able to leave at will. Don't worry, after Huan marries into the Chung mansion, she can still leave whenever she wants, and even come back to the general's mansion. One can accompany her to stay for a few days," Xiao Nani, sitting by the old madam, softly replied. When old Madame Jiang heard this, her eyes lit up. She turned to look at Xiao Nani and asked softly, "Is what your highness said true?" "Of course it is." "That's good. Old madam, the pots are ready." The sky darkened quickly in winter. Not long after they sat down, it was already dark outside. Nanny Su walked in and said to old Madame Jiang. Hearing her words, old Madame Jiang said softly, "Then let's start eating." When Jiang Peihuan helped old Madame Jiang into the dining room, the table was already filled with all kinds of dishes. There was a small pot in front of everyone. There aren't many dishes in winter, so your highness can eat as you please. After sitting down on the chair, the old madam looked at Xiao Nani and said softly, Chapter 215. The silver banknote in the box. Xiao Nani sat next to Jiang Peihuan. Hearing the old madam's words, he chuckled softly. Old madam is being too polite. These dishes are already very plentiful. In the subsequent time, everyone quietly dined. The old madam tired quickly. After some conversations with Xiao Nani, the old madam's eyes revealed a hint of fatigue. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan gently said, "Grandmother, it's getting late. Let me escort you to your room." The old madam was indeed a little tired. When she heard Jiang Peihuan's words, she nodded. Xiao Nani and Xueqi had already gone to the main hall for tea. Therefore, Jiang Peihuan helped the old madam to her room. After helping the old madam wash up with Nanny Su, she watched the old madam lie down and prepare to leave. However, the old madam reached out and pulled Jiang Peihuan's hand. "Grandmother, do you have anything else to tell me?" Feeling the warmth of her grandmother's hand, Jiang Peihuan sat down next to the bed, looking at her inquisitively. The old madam did not speak, but glanced at Nanny Su. A moment later, Nanny Su handed over a wooden box. The old madam took the box from Nanny Su and placed it in Jiang Peihuan's palm. Seeing the box in her hand, Jiang Peihuan could not help but ask, "Grandmother, what is this? Open it and take a look." Hearing the old madam's words, Jiang Peihuan gently opened the box. When she saw what was inside, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of surprise. Inside the box was a stack of silver banknote and a title deed. "Grandmother, this is some dowry money I kept aside for you." "No, grandmother, one can't accept this." Without a second thought, Jiang Peihuan pushed the box back. Seeing her reaction, a touch of anger flashed in the old madam's eyes. "What, are you looking down on your grandmother's gifts?" Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan gave a wry smile. "Grandmother, you know that's not what I mean. This belongs to you, grandmother. How can I take your things? If it's mine, I can give it to whomever I please. I chose to give it to you, so you should accept it." People often say the elderly can be like children, and in this moment, the old madam indeed exhibited some childlike stubbornness. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's eyes, old Madame Jiang said softly, "Don't worry, I didn't give you everything. I've kept some for myself. These are just material things. As long as you live a good life, that's all I wish for. Rest assured, grandmother, I promise you'll live a good life." Hearing the old madam's words, Zhang Peihuan no longer refused the items in the box and tightly held her grandmother's hand instead. The old madam's face brightened with a smile. She reached out, gently caressed Zhang Peihuan's face, and then said, "One can see that King Cheng is very fond of you. One believe you will live a good life with him. It's getting late. You should go back and rest early." Okay. Zhang Peihuan nodded and then left her grandmother's room. When she reached the main hall, she saw Xiao Nani standing alone in the courtyard. Dressed in white, he stood there, almost blending with the snowflakes that danced around him. "Xiao Nani?" Seeing the man's back, Zhang Peihuan subconsciously called out. Hearing her voice, the man turned around. When he saw her, Xiao Nani's eyes were filled with gentleness. As Zhang Peihuan approached, he stepped forward and gently helped her put on her cloak's hood. When he lowered his head, he saw the box in Zhang Peihuan's hand. "Did the old madam give this to you?" "Yes, grandmother said it's my dowry money. Old madam loves you very much." "Yes, grandmother has always been very loving towards me." As they spoke, the two began to walk towards the plum garden. Close to the entrance, Xiao Nani suddenly turned to Zhang Peihuan and asked, "Huan heir, do you have any preferences regarding our future residence in the palace?" Hearing this, confusion flashed in Zhang Peihuan's eyes. Noticing her expression, Xiao Nani softly said, "After our grand wedding, you will naturally move into the Cheng mansion. Do you have any specific requests for our future residence?" "Nothing special. Simplicity is best." Zhang Peihuan remembered the opulence she had seen in the Cheng mansion. She wasn't particularly fond of extravagance. Acknowledging her response, Xiao Nani nodded. As they reached the entrance of the plum garden, Zhang Peihuan said, "It's getting colder as night deepens. You should head back earlier." "All right. Rest well, and I'll come to see you tomorrow." After seeing her nod, Xiao Nani turned and left, climbing over the wall just as before. Watching his retreating figure, a slight smile appeared on Zhang Peihuan's face. "Eldest miss, the coals in the room have been lit. Are you ready to rest?" Upon entering the room, Zhang Peihuan heard Yuer's voice. Setting the box on the table, a white figure darted towards Zhang Peihuan. It was Xiao Bai. Petting Xiao Bai, she turned to Yuer. "It's getting late. You should rest. One don't need you to attend to me now." "Yes, eldest Mississippi. Please rest well." After Yuer left, Zhang Peihuan got ready for bed. Instead of lying down immediately, she picked up a book by her bedside. Meanwhile, having returned to the Cheng mansion, Xiao Nani didn't go to his room but entered his study. After sitting down on the chair, Xiao Nani started to draw something on the white paper. Han Feng, seeing the drawing in Xiao Nani's hands, was puzzled. After an unknown period of time, just as Han Feng was leaning against the wall and about to fall asleep, he heard Xiao Nani's voice, "Go find a carpenter." "Master, why do you need a carpenter?" Hearing Xiao Nani's voice, Han Feng instantly woke up. Xiao Nani didn't say anything. Instead, he handed the blueprint to Han Feng. "Let the carpenter build the house in the backyard according to the blueprint." When he took the blueprint from Xiao Nani, Han Feng subconsciously lowered his head. However, Han Feng's eyes were filled with surprise when he saw the drawings on the blueprint. Wasn't this the eldest Miss Plum Garden? Looking at Xiao Nani, Han Feng could not help but ask, "Master, are you going to build another plum garden in the backyard of the Cheng mansion?"
Yes.
"Master, with you like this, young miss wouldn't think that she has always been living in the plum garden, right? What are you talking about? Hurry up and find a carpenter." "All right, 111 go now." After saying that, Han Feng left. The next day, upon waking up, Xiao Nani planned to visit the general's mansion. However, just as he was about to leave, a young palace eunuch informed him that Emperor Qi Ming wished to see him. Frowning slightly, Xiao Nani still followed the eunuch to the palace. "Qinqing Palace. Your Majesty, King Cheng has arrived." Chapter 216. Discussion of important matters. Emperor Qi Ming was reading the memorial. Wang Kuan was standing beside him. When he saw Xiao Nani's slender figure appear at the door, Wang Kuan quickly said. Upon hearing the voice, Emperor Qiming put down the brush in his hand and looked up at Xiao Nani. Walking up, Xiao Nanyi casually bowed to Emperor Qiming before taking a seat in a chair nearby. Then, he looked at Emperor Qiming and said, "Imperial brother, why did you call me into the palace? Why? Can't I seek your company for no reason?" A hint of anger flashed in Emperor Qiming's eyes as he said, looking at Xiao Nani with evident irritation, "Tell me, how long has it been since you last visited me in the palace?" "I've been rather busy recently," Xiao Nani replied. "Busy? Busy with what?" "Imperial brother, have you forgotten that in a month, your younger brother is going to get married?" Upon hearing this, Emperor Qiming said nothing further. After a moment of silence, he looked at Xiao Nani and said, "I called you here today because I have something to discuss with you. Please speak, Imperial brother. Look at this." As he spoke, Emperor Qiming passed a memorial to Wang Kuan, who quickly took it and placed it before Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani took the memorial from Wang Kuan and opened it. After glancing over the contents, he frowned. "So, the tribes from the grasslands wish to marry the princess as a peace alliance. According to the words of the northern border, that's what it means," Emperor Qiming replied. "I've heard that they're sending their first prince for the marriage alliance. Given the distance, he will arrive in Qi Kingdom in no more than 3 days." As Emperor Qiming spoke, Xiao Nani listened quietly. When the emperor finished, Xiao Nani said, "You seem reluctant about this marital alliance, Imperial brother. Princesses from our Qi Kingdom who have married into the northern border in the past haven't lived long lives. From our founding emperor to the previous one, more than 10 princesses have been married off to the northern border. Now, only the 9th and 11th princesses remain. One am loath to part with either." The 9th princess was the legitimate daughter of the empress and her only child. The 11th princess was born of the noble concubine and is the sister of Prince E. The weather in the northern border is cold. It's indeed not suitable for the women of Qi Kingdom to live. Nani, help me think of a way to prevent the 9th princess and the 11th princess from marrying into the northern border. Hearing Emperor Qiming's words, Xiao Nani fell silent. A moment later, he directly looked at Emperor Qiming and said, "Imperial brother, if you're reluctant about this alliance, simply decline the marriage proposal. I would like to directly refuse, but am worried that this will cause the northern border to harbor resentment. If the northern border dares to have rebellious thoughts, if the northern border dares to rebel, I am willing to lead troops to conquer it on your behalf. After all, Qi Kingdom is a vast empire. Why should we fear a minor kingdom like the northern border?" While Xiao Nanye's tone was mild, his words reassured Emperor Qiming. After considering, the emperor said, "In that case, when the first prince of the northern border arrives, you will help me personally greet him. I won't have the time. Please find someone else, Imperial brother." Facing Emperor Qiming's dissatisfied gaze, Xiao Nani said calmly, "Now, the princes are all grown up. It's time for you to give them some tasks. In the end, aren't you just wanting to be with your fiancé who hasn't formally married into the family? Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. If Imperial brother understands, then don't bother me." Xiao Nani very openly admitted his intentions, which prompted Qiming Emperor to throw the seal from the table at him, shouting, "Get out!" Looking at the seal on the floor, Xiao Nani calmly stood up and headed towards the door. But as he reached the door, he paused. Turning around, he smiled at Emperor Qiming and said, "Imperial brother, since the first prince from the northern border has come to our kingdom to propose marriage, he must have brought many treasures, hasn't he? What? Are you planning to empty my private treasury? I am about to get married, and there are many places in the mansion that need decoration. When the first prince arrives, they'll come and ask for rewards." With that, Xiao Nani left the hall. Qiming Emperor watched his retreating figure, chuckling to himself, "That boy, always eyeing the treasures in my possession. It shows the good bond between His Highness and Your Majesty." Wang Kuan, who was standing beside, quickly added. By the time Xiao Nani left the palace, it was already afternoon. As he reached the palace gate, Han Feng greeted him, "Master, the carpenters have already arrived at the mansion. Do you want to oversee their work? After all, it's where the eldest miss will stay in the future." Hearing this, Xiao Nani nodded. Over the next few days, he kept a close eye on the carpentry work in his mansion. On the fourth day, Yi Xiao came to the Cheng mansion. It turned out that the Xue family had arrived in the capital ahead of schedule. Considering what Xiao Nani had previously mentioned, Jiang Peihuan sent Yi Xiao to check if he was available. An hour later, Xiao Nani arrived at the general's mansion on Jue Yun. All of Jiang's immediate family was there. Seeing him arrive, Shui Yin softly laughed. "Why has your highness come?" Chapter 217. Someone from the northern border. Upon hearing those words, Jiang Saijin's eyes lit up. She bowed slightly to Xiao Nani and whispered, "Thank you, brother-in-law." When Jiang Peihuan lifted the curtains, she saw Xiao Nani and Jiang Sijin secretly talking. Witnessing this scene, she silently smiled. As Jiang Peihuan unveiled the curtain, Xiao Nani approached her. The man sat atop Zhu Yun's back, but bent over to ask Jiang Peihuan, "Is there a matter?" Seeing the concern in the man's eyes, Jiang Peihuan shook her head. "I just wanted to check the weather outside. There won't be much snow today, don't worry." One sat inside the carriage, the other on a horse, yet they spoke softly. Shui Yin, sitting on the other side, watched this scene with a smile. Of her 3 children, Shui Yin felt most guilty about Jiang Peihuan. Now seeing Xiao Nani care so much for Jiang Peihuan, Shui Yin felt very grateful. "Mother," one see maternal grandmother and the others. At that moment, Jiang Saijin's voice reached Shui Yin's ears. Hearing the sound, Shui Yin immediately lifted the curtain. The Shui family's convoy was not far away. Su Yunyang supported old Madame Shui as she alighted from the carriage. She looked at the crowd in the distance and chuckled softly. "Mother, look. It's the younger sister and her husband." "Mother." By now, Shui Yin had already stepped forward. Jiang Peihuan and the others quickly followed. Arriving in front of old Madame Shui, Shui Yin immediately knelt. "Mother, please forgive my unfilial behavior." Looking at Shui Yin kneeling before her, old Madame Shui's eyes reddened instantly. She reached out and helped Shui Yin up. "What nonsense are you talking about? Get up quickly." "Grandmother, aunt." Once Shui Yin stood up, Jiang Changbai led his 2 younger sisters forward to pay their respects. Seeing her grandson and little niece, old Madame Shui's eyes were full of smiles. "Changbai and Sijin have grown so much. Mother-in-law, thank you for your hard work on this journey." Seeing that old Madame Shui was holding Jiang Shangbai's hand and not letting go, Jiang Hong stepped forward and spoke softly. When old Madame Shui heard this, she waved her hand nonchalantly. "It's just sitting in the carriage. It wasn't hard." As she spoke, old Madame Shui suddenly saw Xiao Nani, who was standing beside Jiang Peihuan. She quickly went forward, but just as she was about to bow, Xiao Nani held her up. "Old Madame Shui, I came here today to pay my respects. Please don't treat me as an outsider." "All right, since your highness says so, then this old one will be arrogant for a while. Yin heir, help mother-in-law into the carriage first. Let's return to the mansion early. It's too cold outside. Mother, please get in the carriage. We can talk more once we're home." "All right, let's discuss it later." At this moment, the children of the Shui family also came forward to pay their respects. Apart from brothers Shui Tao and Shui Hai, nearly all of the Shui family's masters were present. Among the younger generation, Shui Ji and Shui Ru were present. A large group proceeded to the general's mansion. Jiang Peihuan didn't know that shortly after their departure, a group of strangers also arrived. "Big brother, we've reached Qi Kingdom, but why hasn't anyone come to greet us?" The luxurious carriage curtain was lifted, revealing a girl dressed in minority attire. She was beautiful, yet her expression had a touch of sharpness. Beside the carriage was a tall man on a horse, Ha Qi, the first prince of the northern border. Hearing the young girl's words in the carriage, Ha Qi said in a soft voice, "Our northern grassland tribe is a small country. I think the Qi Kingdom is waiting for us to take the initiative to pay our respects." "Humph, who said that our tribe is from a small country?" Zhuama, you'd better remember your purpose for coming here. So control your temper." Before Zhuama could finish her words, Ha Chi interrupted her coldly. Hearing Ha Kai's words, Zhuo Ma's eyes were filled with unwillingness, but she didn't dare to say anything. Although she was also a princess of the northern tribe, her father had dozens of princesses. If it weren't for her beauty, she wouldn't have come. After all, her birth mother was just a singer with no status in the northern border. First prince, it seems like someone is coming this way. Upon hearing this, Hachi looked into the distance. Zhuo Ma, who was inside the carriage, also lifted the curtain. Seeing the approaching men, Zhuo Ma's eyes revealed a hint of amazement. The men from the Qi kingdom indeed appeared more handsome than those on the grassland. At this moment, Xiao Juanhao had already brought Zhao Yong to Ha Chi. Xiao Juanhao, having received an unexpected decree from the emperor, had been assigned to welcome the first prince of the northern grassland tribe alongside the newly appointed prince of Huainan. Hence, their delayed arrival. Seeing Ha Chi, Xiao Juanhao dismounted with a smile. My apologies, first prince. I was held up by pressing matters in the palace, so I came late. Recognizing the individuals before him based on a whisper from his attendant, Ha Chi gave a slight smile and promptly greeted them. It's an honor to meet Prince Qing and the Prince Huainan. Just then, the curtain of the carriage was lifted again. Zhuoma got off the carriage and looked at the two men standing in front of her. She laughed softly and said, Zhuoma greets the Prince Qing and the Prince Huainan. The decree had only mentioned receiving the first prince, so Xiao Juanhao was somewhat puzzled upon seeing Zhuoma. He turned to Ha Chi and inquired, First prince, who might this be? This is my sister, Zhuoma. So it's Princess Zhuoma. While Xiao Juanhao and Ha Chi were talking, Zhuoma's gaze was constantly sizing up Xiao Juanhao and Zhao Yong. In the end, her gaze fell on Xiao Juanhao. Did Prince Qing come specifically to greet us?
Yes.
Although Zhuoma's gaze was subtle, for someone like Xiao Juanhao, raised in the depths of the palace, such a look was nothing more than a child's trick. Zhuoma's prying made Xiao Juanhao somewhat uncomfortable, though he showed no external sign of it. Seeing that Zhuoma might say something further, he promptly addressed Ha Chi, First prince, it's getting late. We should head to the inn. Of course, we appreciate your guidance, Prince Qing. No need for formalities, first prince. As they prepared to remount their horses, Ha Chi cast a warning glance at Zhuoma. She withdrew her gaze, but as she closed the curtain of her carriage, her eyes were filled with scheming darkness. If she could stay in the Qi kingdom, she would no longer have to face the attitude of those grassland tribes. Back at the general's mansion, Shui Yan and Jiang Hong brought old Madame Shui to old Madame Jiang's chrysanthemum hall. Members from the second and third households of the Jiang family were already present. Elder sister, I'm so glad you're here. When old Madame Jiang saw old Madame Shui, she hurried forward with a smile in her eyes. It's been too long. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.